For over 135 years, First Bank of Sea Isle City has proudly served Cape May County with a commitment to maintaining a hometown feel. We provide secure, convenient deposit and loan products every day. We're more than just a bank. We're a trusted community partner, offering personalized banking solutions that make life easier for local families of all ages. First Bank of Sea Isle City. Look for our lighthouse in your neighborhood and discover what makes us different.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They got him again!
Sixers.
Bang! It's good! Ball game!
And Flyers.
Tipped in front of the net!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
Finally!
This is Hanging with Hennig.
I have friends everywhere.
On 97.3 ESPN Radio, South Jersey.
In New Jersey. Am I right? Yeah.
Live feed on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
It seems to run on some form of electricity.
Well, you're not wrong.
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together.
Now, here's your host.
He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig back here on 97.3 ESPN. Glad to have you guys on board the show today. Eagles game day. Yes, Eagles game day. The Philadelphia Eagles. Here on your home for Eagles football in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins tonight at 6 p.m. It's pregame coverage, and always Mike Quick. They got you covered starting at 7 here on 97.3 ESPN. The first full weekend of NFL preseason. We got a lot to get to on the show. Andy McNamara is back with more NFL fantasy football conversation coming up at, well, basically 12:25, basically 25 minutes from now. We have Caden Steele from NJ.com. He is joining us before he walks into the stadium down in Baltimore at 1 p.m. 1:25 is our weekly Ivy Rehab injury report. We'll get the latest details on Jonathan Grenard. We'll get the latest information on Caleb Killian's oblique injury that nobody seems to know when he's coming back from. Plus, we're going to run it back a little bit later in the show. If you missed my conversation with Nick Ferguson, the NFL safety, I'm going to replay that back a little bit later in the show because I thought he had a lot of great insights about Jalen Hurts and about the Eagles from a player's perspective. And I think that is kind of, where I want to start with this conversation here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. As always, you guys can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. We also are live on YouTube and X. Just follow at Josh Hennig to catch the show each and every week. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends. I'm starting to wonder when it comes to like the line of demarcation. At what point do we start maybe being, shall I call it, a little more responsible when it comes to how we treat everything we do when it comes to sport analysis? And the reason I say that is because, a perfect example is, I've been known Billy Schwein. He's on the locker room, 10 a.m. to noon every Saturday and Sunday here on 97.3 ESPN. And I've known Billy for 16 years now. And I have always said that in some ways, Billy Schwein is kind of like a symbol of basically somebody who is the voice of the fan. And he admits that. There's no debating that. There's no analyzing that or anything. So, that's pretty well known. But, when someone like Billy says about 15 minutes ago, Jalen Hurts threw the interception in practice, it's a part of the reason why I try to give you guys facts and information here on 97.3 ESPN, because one video goes online and people lose their minds. So when I have a former player like Nick Ferguson coming on, or when I hear other people who are former players on different platforms like a Dan Orlovsky on ESPN or Emery Hunt on CBS Sports, when all of these people are telling us that we're making a mountain out of a molehill, that we're making too much of it, that, one social media clip is not an indictment on a quarterback, but yet there's a whole group of people who want to say it is. I ask you guys, is it more believable to listen to somebody who played in the NFL? Is it more plausible to listen to an expert, or is it more plausible to listen to your friend or your buddy? Now, again, not every player is 100% accurate. Not every former player knows the game as well as others do. Just a fact of life. But I genuinely am asking the question. As sports fans, we have access to more information than ever before. So when I sit here and tell you guys, hey, I see something, or I heard somebody who saw something, or, Mike Gill plays a cut from somebody from a show, we're trying to bring you information. And for me, that's where it gets to the other Philly sports teams. Philadelphia sports is in a very, very strange place. Okay? In a very, very strange place. And you look at the Eagles, they're getting ready to play tonight. The Phillies this weekend are in Minnesota. The Sixers, the countdown is on to the start of their season, right? And the Flyers, the countdown is on for them too. And very soon, shows like mine, Mike Gill and the Sports Bash, the Locker Room with Billy Schwein, we're going to be wall-to-wall football, because that's the world we live in, man. So, am I really going to spend the next 4 weeks getting ready for the football season worried about a guy throwing an interception in practice? Am I really going to let that be an indictment of what I think of the Philadelphia Eagles? No. Now, if you are, bless your heart, as they say in the South, because we have a plethora of reasons why the Eagles are going to be better in 2026 than they were last year. And frankly, the biggest reason has to do with the coaching staff. Whether you like or dislike Nick Sirianni, the reality is that Nick Sirianni has a long history at this point of admitting if he is wrong, whether overtly or subtext-wise. Nick Sirianni moved on from Brian Johnson and Kevin Matullo after 1 year. There was no patience. There was no, oh man, you got to give him another year. Did you see what he had to deal with this year? I mean, they fired Sean Desai in the middle of the 2023 season. Now, if you're someone who says it's not Sirianni, it's Howie Roseman, fine. Whatever you want to give it credit to. But whoever do you want to point to, the Philadelphia Eagles didn't hang on to Kevin Matullo because they liked him. You know, all the players liked Kevin Matullo, especially the receivers. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. These guys really liked Kevin Matullo, the person. Kevin Matullo and Nick Sirianni were very good friends. They were long time coaching friends and personal friends. I mean, the dude was at Sirianni's wedding, for goodness sake. Okay? So, they did not let the personal relationship get in the way of the professional advancement. The second reason why the Eagles will be better this year is Jalen Carter. Now, if you want to say that maybe the players are just giving coach speak or they're just saying good things to the media because they're supposed to, I'm okay with you saying that. But I'm telling you that to me, it's very obvious that Jalen Carter took this offseason very seriously. What I have seen from training camp, what I have heard from the reporters who are on the ground, Jalen Carter, and this is not cliche, is in the best shape of his life. That man, when he is on, is unstoppable in the NFL. He looks like a guy who went into the offseason and realized, I need to take my health, my physical conditioning more seriously. He got the procedures done on his shoulders. He hit the gym. He hit it hard. He looks like he wants to be a guy who could be in a conversation for the best D tackle in football. The third reason why the Philadelphia Eagles will be better this year is no A.J. Brown. Addition by subtraction is not a t-shirt. It is not a slogan. It is not something to make you feel better about yourself. We know through experience, through research, and beyond, that when there's a bad apple, it ruins the whole bunch. When you have somebody who is not focused on winning 100%, it brings down the rest of the team. There were so many times last year that A.J. Brown did not look like he was in it to win it. Between the drop passes, not finishing routes, and then just the two-faced nature of his existence. Saying one thing in front of the media's locker, saying another thing on a Twitch stream, saying one thing on Twitter or Instagram, and then saying another thing in front of the cameras. You don't need that in the locker room. And Jalen Hurts made a very interesting comment a couple of weeks ago when he says that we are all now 100% committed. Well, that's interesting. Were you not last year? Doesn't sound like it. Between the dumpster fire that was Kevin Patullo and the malcontent that was A.J. Brown, to me, this sounds like a team that needed to remove the bad apple. And in conjunction with moving on from A.J. Brown, you brought in Sean Mannion. And Sean Mannion, I think, is a very interesting figure because there were two people who talked about him this week that really stood out to me. One of them being friend of Billy Schweim's, Brian Baldinger. Because I feel like Baldy is, and I don't say this about every former player, but I think he is one of the select. He probably has less bias than any former player out there, probably. He doesn't let his personal preferences get in the way when he does analysis. And when he said this earlier this week on national ESPN radio, it definitely stood out to me when he talked about Sean Mannion in the Eagles offense.
Sean Mannion has a paper-thin resume. He's cognizant of it, but he's very bright, and he's very definitive about what he wants. And for Jalen Hurts to go back under center where he starts practice every day, just taking snaps from the centers and just working on his footwork, like he is bought in. He looks good. He looks leaner. He looks faster, and he's committed.
So first of all, how's the beginning? He said Sean Mannion is cognizant that he does not have a lot of experience. So he's putting in more work. Okay. That's a good sign. That's self-awareness. You know who didn't have self-awareness? Kevin Matullo. You know who didn't have self-awareness? A.J. Brown. You know who didn't have self-awareness? Brian Johnson. You know who didn't have self-awareness? Matt Patricia. And we know what all those guys have in common? They ain't here. Second thing, you heard about how Sean Mannion is making Jalen Hurts go under center at the beginning of every practice, not at points in practice. He is saying, we are going to do the thing that you have not trained in enough at the start of every day, which kind of goes into, like, for example, when I used to be a personal trainer, you always train the most difficult stuff first and then do the easier stuff later. As a coach, you say, what does my team need the most work in? What at the beginning of the practice? And then as a reward for you busting your tail for the first half of practice, we're going to give you a little bit more fun and easier stuff at the end. You know what bad coaches do? They put the hard stuff at the end. No one wants to play for those guys. So Sean Mannion is already ingratiating himself to the players on this team, which I'm sure, being a former quarterback, backup quarterback, he had a lot of time to observe good and bad coaches during his 10 years around the NFL. The other thing you heard, Jalen Hurts is working on his footwork. How many times have we heard different former quarterbacks complain about quarterbacks like, coming out of college, I should say, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Pat Mahomes. These guys all had trash footwork in college. And I'm almost wondering now, did anyone ever work with Jalen Hurts on his footwork in the last 3 years? Is Sean Mannion the first guy to come in here and say, Jalen, I want to work on your footwork? Because that might be true. The other half of it is Jalen Hurts is invested. Jalen Hurts is committed. Jalen Hurts made the comment the other day that he is in Sean Mannion's hip pocket, following him around everywhere. I like to hear that. This offense is going to be better this year because of buy-in, because of self-awareness, because of commitment. You got rid of the rotten apples. And at the end of the day, I don't know about the rest of you guys, whether you want to text in at 609-403-0973, whether you want to chime in on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig, wherever you're tuning into the show, I appreciate you tuning in. But I'll ask you, what is more believable? The people who know the game or trolls online who are overreacting to one social media clip of Jalen Hurts throwing one interception in practice, which, by the way, if you go back and watch the video, the receiver didn't run to the spot properly. The cornerback read the route and jumped in front of it. And the Eagles literally labeled the clip, "Big plays from Q coming." The video was meant to be about Quinyon Mitchell. But there's a contingent of people who hate Jalen Hurts with such a passion, like he's their most hated politician, that they're willing to go out of their way to make him look like he's a bum. But at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts has had a plethora of different coordinators. You don't think that it helped the best quarterbacks of all time to have continuity at the play calling position? Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Pat Mahomes, Dan Marino. Who else are great quarterbacks of all time? Oh, Kurt Warner. Let's go a little more recent. You know, there's that guy in Buffalo. They literally fired the head coach and kept his play caller to maintain continuity with the Bills offense. But we want to act like continuity doesn't matter? Come on, man. Now, I can't promise you Sean Mannion might leave in a year or two because if he's too good, he might be out the door. So I can't help that. I can't account for that. But what I can account for is, at least for 2026, between the removing of rotten apples, the added investment from the players, the recalibration of the roster, Jalen Carter being fit and healthy and ready to go. And speaking of continuity, we didn't get to the fourth reason why I believe in the Eagles this year. The grizzled veteran Vic Fangio is already in game regular season mode. He is going off in these press conferences. Fangio sounds like a man who was never going to retire. Remember all those rumors he was going to retire after last year? He has come into this year firing on all cylinders. I mean, he's criticizing reporters. He's making fun of people. He's saying that Don Mattingly isn't good enough as a manager. He's out there saying that Jalen Hurts is better than people think he is. He's out there saying that nobody wants to talk about Jordan Davis when they should. I mean, Fangio sounds like a man who took last year personal. He sounds like a man who took the 49ers loss like it was his own fault. And you know what? I love it. I'm excited for the 2026 Philadelphia Eagles. How about you guys? Text board is open. 609-403-0973. Streaming live on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig. Because we are back in the 973 ESPN studios today. That's why you might hear me mentioning Billy Schweim's name more often, because I see him right across from me right now as he's getting himself situated to head out for the day. But we'll be back on the road Labor Day weekend. We'll be back at my friends at Boulevard Super Liquors. Details still incoming what our latest giveaway is going to be, but we will be back there with the best selection of beer, wine, and spirits at the Jersey Shore. Boulevard Super Liquors, they're my go-to. They should be yours, whether you're going for a day on the beach, whether you are someone who's going to your favorite BYOB restaurant, or maybe you're just having a house party this weekend. Boulevard Super Liquors has the best selection at the Jersey Shore, just minutes off Garden State Parkway, exit 25 at the foot of the Ocean City 34th Street Bridge. And maybe you want to stock up because tonight you got the Eagles and the Phillies at the same time tonight. You have a wild UFC fight card on stack tonight. And you know what? It's just a weekend at the Jersey Shore. What other reason do you have to celebrate? So stock up for your friends with my guys at Boulevard Super Liquors. More football talk with Andy McNamara coming up next on 97.3 ESPN.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio. It's a critical showdown in the AL West.
Gone! A line drive home run to left center for Alvarez.
While the Houston Astros are fighting for the top of the division, the Seattle Mariners are lurking a few games back, and they go head-to-head this weekend.
Julio Rodriguez, a two-run blast.
The Mariners at the Astros on Sunday Night Baseball.
Your radio home of Sunday Night Baseball. 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 6:30.
Whether you are stocking up for a summer party, a day at the beach, or that golden hour dinner at your favorite BYOB restaurant, your one-stop shopping destination, where I go for every occasion, is Boulevard Super Liquors. At the foot of the Ocean City 34th Street Bridge, Boulevard Super Liquors has the best selection of craft beer, whiskey, vodka, wines, and tequila in all of South Jersey. Plus, they are minutes from Garden State Parkway, exit 25, so you can easily stop into Boulevard Super Liquors on your travels all around South Jersey. Family owned and operated for 4 generations, Boulevard Super Liquors also has the largest temperature-controlled wine room in New Jersey, offering you the best selection of wines for your next dinner date or social outing. These are just some of the reasons why Boulevard Super Liquors is my go-to. On Roosevelt Boulevard, at the foot of the Ocean City 34th Street Bridge, the best selection of beer and spirits in South Jersey.
Making your home look brand new is what Work of Art Construction can do for you. Ready to remodel your bathroom or have a kitchen makeover? Art Masker has 40 years of experience in construction and knows how to make your home look like a work of art. Want to install a new back deck or invest in a new front door? Just call Art Masker at 609-788-4271 to learn more. Visit Work of Art Construction on Instagram to see how Work of Art Construction can make your home look brand new. Beautify your home with Work of Art. Call him at 609-788-4271 and let them make your home truly a work of art.
Brand new Kias, $179 a month. $179 at RK. RK Kia of Vineland, New Jersey. Now through Monday, get new 26 Kia K4 LXS, just $179 a month. That's right, $179 for brand new Kia K4s. Even new Sportage LX, just $267 a month. $267 plus 0% financing, 0 for 72 months. At RK Kia of Vineland, save thousands with Labor Day pricing on the entire Kia lineup. Even the all-new 2027 Telluride, plus acres of Kia certified pre-owned, and you get RK coverage, no charge. Ding repair, tire repair, wheel repair, windshield repair, and more. New Kia K4s, $179 a month. New Sportage, $267 a month. Hurry, now through Monday at RK Kia of Vineland. RK does it right. MyRKKia.com. MyRKKia.com. To qualified buyers plus tax and tag. For details, call 856-641-1111 or MyRKKia.com.
Sebastian Maniscalco, live.
Well, some people do Venmo. Maybe you went out to dinner before the show. Somebody paid, and then the rest of the group said, no, we'll Venmo you later. No, you pay me. No. Right? You can leave here tonight and wrap yourself around a tree. Where does that leave me?
Live on stage at Ovation Hall and Ocean Casino Resort for 8 shows in September 2026. Get tickets now at theoceanac.com.
From the people who brought you It's the Dog Park comes.
Your dog is limping, but she seems fine. Plus, you've heard they can fake it just to get what they want, so what's the deal now? You're being gaslit.
Protect your dog from injury and illness with Progressive Pet Insurance.
Oh, now she switched legs. What a diva.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states or situations. Coverage subject to policy terms.
Big prizes, big celebration, and 2 chances to win at Bridgeton Auto Mall. Purchase any new or pre-owned vehicle during August and September for your chance to win $20,000 cash. Or bring your vehicle in for qualifying service and you could win $5,000 cash. Then join us Saturday, October 3rd for our grand prize celebration featuring a barbecue food truck, live DJ, family fun, and the cash drawings beginning at 1 p.m. 808 North Pearl Street, Bridgeton, or visit BridgetonAutomall.com. No purchase necessary. See dealer for complete rules and details.
You're hanging with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM.
I want my picks back. I want David Putnam.
And on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
All my picks back, and I want David Putnam just because I feel like it.
You're out of your mind.
Yeah, I am. Haven't I proved that already?
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
Josh Hennig back here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. We're going to continue the football conversation at 609-403-0973. Yeah, I have no idea whose laptop that is, Nick. Okay. Poor Nick's looking around. He's like, what is this doing over here? Poor Nick's last day with Billy Schweim in the locker room, and he's looking around being like, wait, why are these things here?
I'm like, wait, where's all my stuff? Because I leave stuff behind like there's no tomorrow. I forget like little things all the time. I never walk out of the door correctly because I'm always forgetting a wallet, a hat, or sunglasses. It's always something.
See, you'll learn as you get older. You know, us older guys, we have a system, so we don't forget things.
I'm trying to develop the system here.
Well, you got to work on it.
Trust the process.
Because you know what? If you're not trusting your process, there is no result for it.
Got to trust it.
Talk to you Monday.
See you.
Andy McNamara joining us here on 97.3 ESPN for more football conversation. The first full weekend of the NFL preseason. Andy, how you doing today?
Good, Josh. I thought you were going to segue it. Speaking of old guys, here's Andy McNamara. Like, oh.
Well, we're like the same age, but you know,
yes.
the difference is that you have young Andys running around and I don't. But
yes.
the premise is still the same, which is if you don't plan for success.
Yep. You don't succeed.
Right. It's
absolutely.
Like, so like it goes with everything in life. You got to have a system. You got to have a plan. I have a whole procedure when I leave the house. You know, I put one item in the car before another for specific reasons. That way I don't forget anything. You know, I take care of my laundry in the morning. You know, I got my coffee I leave the house with. You know, but if you get out of that rhythm, if you get out of that system, you are DOA.
Yeah, it throws you right off. And I think that segues nicely, Josh, into the NFL preseason, because what are NFL teams and players? Routine, right? Preparing for success, preparing every type of situation in practice, in training camp, in preseason, so that when the games count, you're ready to go. And Eagles play tonight. I don't think the starters are supposed to be seen any time, really. But I'm very intrigued with like Sean Mannion and how his play calling sort of goes, because he's still really young coach.
It's funny because what I saw last night? Who looked like he was not ready to succeed?
Who?
Was Tua down in Atlanta. I mean, Kevin Stefanski either has a larger uphill battle than we all realized, or he and Tua are just not connecting, because Tua did not look like a man who wanted to be on a football field on a Friday night.
Dude, like it's Tua. The thing is, Tua is one hit away, as we know, from his career being over, right? I can't even imagine the headspace that would put you in and where it might pop up. And you're in the preseason in this situation. Like Kevin Stefanski, no joke, Josh, he could be a one and done. The two-time coach here could be a one and done. Look at the quarterback situation. Michael Penix Jr., what was the knock on him coming out of college? Injury prone. What is he now? Injured. Tua, injury prone. Look terrible. Behind those, if those two go down, you go to Cooper Rush, who actually was like an okay backup in Dallas. But, oh, man. Like, if we're looking fantasy football upside, Josh, like I think that dings everybody, including Bijan Robinson, who's supposed to be the first or second overall pick in fantasy drafts. Because, Josh, let's say you end up with Cooper Rush, wouldn't you just stack the box if you're an opponent against Robinson all day? Isn't that the plan? Like, this team could go south real quick.
And listen, I think that is the key. If you're someone who's preparing for your fantasy football league, you have to have, this is why you don't have fantasy drafts early in August.
Absolutely.
This is why you wait and see, you gather more information, right? And so, by the time we get to the end of August, those Falcons players may have been first, second, third round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Bijan Robinson, those guys may now be 9, 10, 11 round picks.
No question. And that's a great point. You pay attention to these preseason games. And it's like the NFL Combine for draft picks. You take it as part of the information package. Now, Tua stunk. Now, if you put Tua in a real game, when it counts, maybe it is fine. But what we have to go to right now in Atlanta is that he looked terrible. The offense looked terrible. The offense looked very much like what it was last year with the Cleveland Browns, almost dead last in the NFL, if not last. And so that has to make it. So, okay, you got 2 more games. All right. Well, how does the offense look at the end of that? Does it improve? Does it get worse? Because you're right. This significantly affects Drake London. I hope you get competent quarterback play, because if you do, I think Kyle Pitts Sr., with Kevin Stefanski's love for using tight ends, I think could be an absolute stud. But Josh, if you end up with the Tua that look like that, or Cooper Rush, or God forbid, Jack Strand, who's number 4, yeah. like no bueno on any Falcons outside of Robinson. And even then, you're going to be taking a hit if teams are going to be stacking the box against Robinson, who's still going to be excellent, but not first or second overall excellent if the quarterback's that bad, right? It's all things you got to keep into account.
And also keep into account if you're someone who, not just for fantasy football, but just NFL projections in general, right? If you're someone who's sitting there and saying, hey, who's going to win the NFC South? I don't think anyone's walking out of this weekend thinking it's going to be the Falcons, right? I mean, the way that preseason, and I'm not saying preseason says everything.
No,
we're not saying that at all here on 97.3 ESPN. But what we're saying is Andy and I always look at preseason as part of the overall information package. And, you saw last night the first set of preseason games, and throw the Hall of Fame game in there as well. Listen, if you do your job in preseason, it probably says a lot about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Look at Malik Willis. He marched down that field with a mediocre Dolphins team and got them into the end zone. Like, that was like clockwork for that guy. And I don't think anyone thinks the Dolphins are going to be a great football team this year. So if you have a team like the Falcons, Andy, right, and they're sitting there and they're maybe like on that fringe, and they can't do that,
And that's a very interesting point you bring up, because it's almost like the negative tells you more about any positive in the preseason. Defenses are vanilla. They're not going to be showing you anything. So if you have your starters out there, whatever combination that is, and you don't succeed, the negative to me is more telling than positive. If you go out and you walk down and you're, looking great, like look at Drew Aller for the Steelers, right? 158.3 whatever QB rating. You can't get any higher. Great. Now, does that mean that Drew Aller is going to be able to go into a regular season game and do that? It does not say that. But what it does is it shows the guy's picking up and learning and getting it done against a vanilla defense. What it tells you about the Falcons is, oh boy, Kevin Stefanski has a lot of work to do. And we have to also remember this. Preseason is used to try things out, Josh, right? So from seeing the Atlanta stuff, I don't think this is the case for them. But in some cases, teams will try things out. Hey, we want to try these different formations out to see how it works. And if it doesn't succeed and looks bad, oh well. But you're trying things out in live games and action. So that's another thing we might not know of. We're trying out X, Y, Z just to see how it looks. And that's when the time to do it in the preseason. So it's just, again, something else to keep in mind. It might not all be as it seems up front when you watch these offenses.
Talk with Andy McNamara here as we do football conversations each week here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN, of course, at AndyMC81 on the X platform, AndyMC Sports on Instagram, and check out all of his football and coverage and more at millions.co. Just search Andy McNamara to like and subscribe. By the way, fresh. I got to say, if you're watching on the YouTube or on X, Andy is wearing probably the freshest, cleanest Browns like polo I have ever seen in my life. I mean, that thing, I would wear that.
Company man, right? Yeah. I'm trying to, come on, Mr. Haslam, look, clean up nice. Yeah. This is a very nice official Nike Browns brown shirt, got to roll through the gear. People say, Andy, why don't you pick a new team? 90% of my clothes are brown stuff. I'd have nothing to wear. I'd have like 3 shirts and jeans. That's it. So that's partly why.
Speaking of the Browns, I do have to ask you about them because this is getting a little bit weird with the whole who's going to play quarterback, who's not going to play quarterback. And, I was watching, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I was for them watching it. But started to watch the quarterback show on Netflix. And, they obviously whatever happens for this season was last season. Well, Joe Flacco started the year on the Browns last year. So a chunk of the season is Joe Flacco on the Browns. And I'm watching the interactions that Flacco has with Shedeur Sanders. And I got to tell you, Andy, Shedeur Sanders, just based on how he handles his teammates, should be the starting quarterback for this team. There is nothing redeeming about Deshaun Watson, but they insist that they're going to have a quarterback competition in Cleveland. Man. And I'm just thinking, no one in their right mind except Jimmy Haslam thinks that Deshaun Watson should get another chance in the NFL.
Well, and even Jimmy Haslam the previous year said, a big swing and a miss, and we move on. And then he attended Deshaun Watson's wedding, and Browns fans like, all right, we're done with him. Nope, he's there. Don't forget, too, there's still $89 million in dead cat money to spread out over the next 2 years after this. So you're still going to have Deshaun Watson in your life one way or another. Shedeur Sanders, super likable. By all accounts, tremendous teammate and liked. Now, I will say this to Deshaun Watson, despite how much I do not want him to play, apparently, last year when he was out with the Achilles, was an incredible mentor, teammate in the classroom, putting in the work, and great teammate. So I'll give the devil his due on that. He wasn't sulking, wasn't prima donning. He was in there doing the work. They feel that needs to be rewarded. Josh, I don't know why you would, on a guy with the last contract who is not going to be a part of your future, why you want to give him time. Now, the truth of the matter is this. In Cleveland, you see at least 3 quarterbacks play every year. At least. Usually 4. So both guys are going to play. So it almost doesn't matter who starts. I think what they're going to do is this. Browns' first 2 games of the season are on the road. Game 3, the one I'm going to week 3 against Carolina, is the home opener. I think they're going to put Deshaun Watson in the first 2. See how he looks. Can he stay healthy? Does he get injured right away? And maybe you can make a switch to Shedeur for the home opener if things go really bad. Because I'll tell you this, man, and I'm going to be there, and I'll be included in it. I'm going to boo the you-know-what out of Deshaun Watson if he stinks the first 2 weeks. I'll tell you that. I was at the game, his last game played. This today at 1 o'clock, Josh, is going to be Deshaun Watson's first football game in 665 days. I was at that game where he tore his Achilles. I was down there October 20. 665 days. And we're going to see. I put a video out on millions.co/Andy McNamara saying, as silly as it might sound with the preseason, this is the most important preseason game of this NFL offseason and the most important game of Deshaun Watson's career in the past 2 years. And it's a preseason game. Because, Josh, if he goes out and he sucks, like we just said, that tells you more than if he does well.
It really does. And I think what's fascinating is that, a lot of people keep talking about the 2027 quarterback class, right? And I think that what's going on in cities like Cleveland and Atlanta, I'll throw Pittsburgh in there just because Rodgers says it's his final year, right? We'll throw the Jets in there because they got Geno Smith who didn't play last night. Apparently, he had a migraine or his neck was hurting or something. I don't really know. Who cares?
He's like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake.
But whatever team you want to point to, there's a lot of teams around the NFL. Oh, Arizona's another one that are
would be Miami too.
Miami too, sure. But there's a lot of teams I think are maybe more willing than usual to let their quarterback situation play out. I'm not saying, a Tanner McKee for the Eagles or a Dylan Gabriel or someone doesn't get traded if a team needs like another body. But I don't think that you're going to see teams hyping guys up.
I got you. Yeah. To try to use his trade bait, unless you have somebody, a Super Bowl contender, who has a guy go down. Like let's say LA, like let's say Matthew Stafford, for example, right? Then you'll probably see some hype up and all that. But for the most part, Josh, as we know, if you're a Super Bowl contender, your starter goes down. Come on, you're done. Unless you're the Eagles and it turns into Nick Foles, of course, right?
Well, at least Nick Foles had a background.
Yes, he had a back. Exactly.
I feel like can we just bring this up really quick? All the quarterbacks except for one who came in and won a Super Bowl as a quote unquote backup all had extensive starting experience before they came in. Okay. Nick Foles had that 28-2 season, where he was electric. Okay.
Yeah.
People forget Trent Dilfer led the Bucs to multiple playoff appearances with the Buccaneers before he ended up becoming the backup and then later the starter with the Ravens. And Doug Williams, didn't work out too well for him because Tampa was horrible, but he was a starter in Tampa for years. Then he ended up in Washington and took over for, what was it, Jay Schrader, I think, back then. So really the only guy who didn't have extensive starting experience before he came a starter was Jeff Hostetler.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these teams, like you said, play it out, because then you get, and this is why I'm frustrated why the Browns don't play Shedeur from day one. Again, I think he's going to get enough playing time, but to see, okay, play it out. Now Shedeur Sanders pops. Hooray. Right? Okay. Hey, we got a guy. Now we got an extra first-round pick for Myles Garrett. Pick the best players, build the team up even more. If he doesn't, then you got that extra first-round pick. You can try to, finagle your way around however to get up. Now, the problem is this, Josh, as we know, it seems almost every year is the quote-unquote best quarterback draft class, right? This time last year, I can't think of one person. You have people who say they did. I don't know. I didn't hear it. No one was talking about Fernando Mendoza. No, zero people were talking about Fernando Mendoza. It was Cade Klubnik. It was Nussmeier. 1-2. Oh, yeah. The year before, it was going to be Quinn Ewers and Brock, who's in Arizona now, right? There's something that goes different every year. 2018, no one saw Josh Allen rise out of nowhere. There's going to be a quarterback we're not talking about today that come December, it's that could be the next guy, right? That could be the next guy. Carson Beck, not Brock. Sorry, just popped in my head.
You really confused me there, bro.
Yeah, I was thinking
who
Brock.
Is he talking? Who's Brock?
I was thinking Brock Lesnar? I was thinking wrestling. I was thinking Brock Lesnar.
Brock Osweiler? Like, what are we talking about here?
I was thinking Brock. I was watching some wrestling before. I was thinking Brock Lesnar.
How about Brock Burline? Remember him?
Ooh, very vaguely.
I think he played for the U and somebody else. I'm gonna look it up.
But my point is this: it's like the guys you're expecting right now could very well not be the guys, and multiples can go back to school. Remember, Arch Manning does not have to come out. Both his uncles, Peyton and Eli, 3 years.
Yep,
starters. He doesn't have to come out. And I'm sorry, everyone want to crown him as the assumed guy. The way he started last year, I know he finished well. Arch Manning has a lot to prove to me. I'm not crowning him. You know, Julian saying for Ohio State, a little undersized. He's got a lot to prove, and he can go back to school, right? I think Dante Moore might be one of the more interesting guys because he was on the bubble.
I'm a Dante Moore guy. Yes.
I liked him. Because Josh, him and Mendoza in the fall were, and then Mendoza won. Then it's like we start, and he made the right choice to go back. If he can take a step forward, there's going to be a real case that Dante Moore could be the first overall pick in this draft.
Absolutely. By the way, Brock Burlin was at Miami in 2003 and 2004. So
wow.
The fact that I remember that says probably more about me than anything else.
That is interesting. Yeah. But you mentioned the different teams that need quarterbacks. You know, Jacoby Brissett's a great placeholder for Arizona. You got Minshew back there, and Carson Beck flashed a little bit sometimes in training camp. You know, like that's the thing. That guy 2 years ago was supposed to be the dude, and then he wasn't. He went back to school. He was a later round pick. So everything can change. And you got names coming. CJ Carr and Notre Dame, super interesting to me too. Lenora Sellers, the physicality. I'm afraid he's going to be like an Anthony Richardson, you know, big bodied athletic guy, but can't throw. But as many interesting names as there are in college football quarterbacks right now, Josh, there is no guarantee that any of them or fewer than we expected come out to be top picks. This past year is Fernando Mendoza. That's it. You know, it's there's so much intrigue, and that's why there's always that danger. You have to be lucky. Are you bad in the right year to get that true quarterback?
And that's why, to bring it full circle, the Tanner McKee conversation tonight is going to be interesting because 2 years ago, when he had that preseason game against the Ravens, people were losing their mind. They were like, "Who is this guy? Look at this guy's arm strength," you know, and he was getting to the point where there was a contingent of Eagle fans who were almost like bench Hurts for McKee, you know, like that's how the infatuation became. Well, McKee right now is in a battle for the backup quarterback in Philadelphia with old Andy Dalton, to the point where there's conjecture, Andy, that because this new offense doesn't throw the ball deep as much as the previous offense, that McKee is struggling to execute in the offense, which I am now extra curious to see what he does tonight.
Yes, absolutely. And I like the curiosity of Tanner McKee, and I'm with you. I want to see what he does tonight to see how he's picked things up, right? If he hasn't, still has 2 more games to do it. But if you're a championship caliber team like the Eagles are, if you fancy yourself a Super Bowl contender, which the Eagles do, I want the veteran to back up my quarterback. Tanner McKee, fun story, not the time. I know if Jalen Hurts go down, Andy Dalton can be a competent administrator of that offense. I know he's solid. I know he can he's not going to wow you, but he can administer. He can get you where you need to go potentially for a stretch of time. Tanner McKee's a total wild card. If you're a Super Bowl contender, I don't want questions. I don't want that. Tanner McKee's a guy you want to see on, you know, in Arizona or somewhere where it's like, hey, throw it in, you know, see what he can do. Not on a Super Bowl. I want the boring veteran that can get me through a stretch if my starter gets injured.
So basically, you want Old Yeller.
I want Old Yeller. Andy, keep him there, you know, pop him out there, and when you don't need him, well, he's always behind the barn.
He's Andy McNamara at Andy MC81 on the X platform, Andy MC Sports on Instagram. Of course, he's also the host of the Sick Podcast covering the Cleveland Browns, and he is also going to be found on millions.co. Andy, tell folks we got going on there.
Oh, man. Well, Josh, I am doing every NFL team, 32 fantasy football previews. Each team gets their own fantasy preview video. That is up now, almost through all of them, but you can check them out now. millions.co/Andy McNamara. Click follow. Listen, I love my 97.3 listeners here when we come on. Do me a favor, click follow there, and then check it out. We got the Eagles up there already. I go division by division, team by team. So get ready for your fantasy football draft and check it out, millions.co/Andy McNamara.
Andy, great stuff today, my friend.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Josh Hennig hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea City. We'll check back on the text board coming up on the other side. We got Thea and Mays Landing and more at 609-403-0973. Plus, coming up in about 10 minutes from now, we will talk with Eagles beat writer from NJ.com, Caden Steele, before he heads into the stadium at Baltimore. Head for tonight's preseason game, Eagles-Ravens tonight. Hear all the action. Mel Reese, Mike Quick calling all the action here on your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens tonight. Pre-game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
The catch is made by Henry, and he is just bounced down by Cooper DeJean.
What a great tackle by Cooper DeJean.
This is South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN.
The Stone Harbor Bar and Grill on 96th Street is Stone Harbor's most complete entertainment experience. Great food, fun, and libations, and newly remodeled for 2026. The same great owners and all your favorite menu items remain. And now we've taken things up a notch with a brand new bar, new sound system, 36 brand new 4K TVs, and more. No matter where you sit, you always have a perfect sight line to the big game. And you've got to try our mouth-watering new menu items. Start your meal with blackened scallops, homemade fried pickles, or a cheeseburger flatbread. Try our new Chicago-style dog or the Mary Ann sandwich. A chicken cutlet, broccoli rabe, and sharp provolone on world-famous Rando's Bakery Atlantic City bread. The Stone Harbor Bar and Grill sources only the top ingredients and serves up the best quality food. Voted best wings of Stone Harbor and the Jersey Shore by Lord of the Wings. Prime rib nights Friday and Saturdays, rib nights on Sundays, and Mike the Magician Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The newly remodeled Stone Harbor Bar and Grill on 96th Street in the heart of Stone Harbor. Open 11:30 a.m. till midnight, 7 days a week. Go to stoneharborbarandgrill.com or call 609-961-3534 for more.
School is back in session, and this is Car Buying 101 at Matt Blatt Kia. Which of the following is the best deal? Is it A, 26 K4 LXS, $129 per month, B, 26 Kia Sportage, $139 per month, or C, 26 Kia Telluride, $259 per month? The correct answer is all of the above. You always get the best deal at Matt Blatt Kia, plus up to $3,000 over KBB fair market value for any trade in any condition. Need some extra credit? Don't sweat it. If you bring home at least $450 per week, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you approved today. Don't be tardy. Come see us today.
Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and mattblattkia.com.
Need a new car and have no idea? It's got to be a Matt Blatt Kia.
24-month leases, $59.99 due at signing, 10,000 miles per year. Call 888-506-4132 for details. Subject to lender approval through KFA. Offers don't combine. Expires month end.
Surprise. Wait, do I know you? You use your Discover Cashback card to have 5% cashback on restaurants all quarter. Yeah. Now, it's payback time.
Whoa, hold on.
Go ahead.
Oh, you mean my Discover Cashback.
I told you there'd be payback.
You know, you have a weird way of delivering good news.
I'm working on that.
Activate and earn 5% cash back at different categories each quarter on up to $1,500 in purchases.
Terms apply. See discover.com/5 for details.
Go for the fun times and the tan lines. Experience an Atlantic City you never knew. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Brand new Kias, $179 a month. $179 at RK. RK Kia of Vineland, New Jersey. Now through Monday, get new 26 Kia K4 LXS, just $179 a month. That's right, $179 for brand new Kia K4s. Even new Sportage LX, just $267 a month. $267 plus 0% financing, 0 for 72 months. At RK Kia of Vineland, save thousands with Labor Day pricing on the entire Kia lineup. Even the all-new 2027 Telluride, plus acres of Kia certified pre-owned, and you get RK coverage, no charge. charge. Ding repair, tire repair, wheel repair, windshield repair, and more. New Kia K4s, $179 a month. New Sportage, $267 a month. Hurry, now through Monday at RK Kia of Vineland. RK does it right. MyRKKia.com. MyRKKia.com. To qualified buyers, plus tax and tag. For details, call 856-641-1111 or MyRKKia.com.
Now back to Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM.
I stood right there not too long ago, and I told the entire world, I said, call me what you want. Yeah.
And on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
And there's nothing you can do about it, and that's not an insult. That is just a fact of life. Yeah.
Streaming live on YouTube and the X platform.
Josh Hennig back here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. We'll have more football talk coming up in the next hour when we will have Caden Steele from NJ.com join us to preview more specifically about the Eagles-Ravens game, plus hear my conversation with former NFL safety for 10 years, Nick Ferguson, in the 2 o'clock hour, plus the Ivy Rehab injury report with over 18 locations around South Jersey offering best-in-class physical therapy. The injury report coming up at 125. Thea and Mays Landing, I like your text, but I don't want to shortchange. So I'm going to save Thea's text for the next hour. I'm going to get this other text in here, a little more fun, a little less needing of attention. Well, should I say not attention? Everyone's text deserves attention at 609-403-0973, but it doesn't need as much expository. That's a better way of putting it. Texter says, Josh, remember a few months ago you asked, do you want Flyers or Sixers tickets? I said Flyers months ago. I was wrong. Sixers tickets were the right investment. Couple of laughing emojis. Listen, man, nobody knew LeBron James was coming to Philadelphia. LeBron didn't know he was coming to Philadelphia until a couple weeks ago. So I am not going to, for 1 minute, act like we all knew. We saw this coming. Listen, if LeBron James and Jaylen Brown weren't here, the answer is still the Flyers. Now, if we make the modified list to Flyers, Sixers, and Phillies, Phillies are out altogether. The lack of faith in the Phillies at this point has just dropped precipitously. It's absolutely wild. All right. As I promised, Thea and Mays Landing, I don't want to shortchange your text, so we'll get to you next hour. But coming up on the other side, who are the players we need to watch for? I know who I'm watching for. We'll see if Caden Steele agrees with me coming up next on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM. Streaming live on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig.
Sunday morning in the locker room with Philly Swine producer Alex Berardis and Aaron Ewing join me in the studio. We'll talk Phillies baseball and go on the mound with former Phillies pitcher Tommy Green, brought to you by Blitz's Market of Ocean City. Tommy gives us his insights on the Phils. Hour 2, Mr. Negadelphia P.J. Corda checks in, brought to you by the Vassar Pool Service. Mr. Negadelphia will opine on Philly sports. All that and more. It's the locker room with Philly Swine, Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon, 97.3 ESPN.
Brand new Kias, $179 a month. $179 at RK. RK Kia of Vineland, New Jersey. Now through Monday, get new 26 Kia K4 LXS, just $179 a month. That's right, $179 for brand new Kia K4s. Even new Sportage LX, just $267 a month. $267 plus 0% financing, 0 for 72 months. At RK Kia of Vineland, save thousands with Labor Day pricing on the entire Kia lineup. Even the all-new 2027 Telluride, plus acres of Kia certified pre-owned, and you get RK coverage, no charge. Ding repair, tire repair, wheel repair, windshield repair, and more. New Kia K4s, $179 a month. New Sportage, $267 a month. Hurry, now through Monday at RK Kia of Vineland. RK does it right. MyRKKia.com. MyRKKia.com. To qualified buyers, plus tax and tag. For details, call 856-641-1111 or MyRKKia.com.
Do not trust US Mobile just because I'm telling you. My name is Ahmed Khatak and I'm the founder of US Mobile. US Mobile invented this technology that lets you share data across any of the 3 networks. There's more coverage than any single carrier in America because we give you all 3 of them. US Mobile is Wirecutter's top cell phone plan. We're a top-rated carrier by Consumer Reports, and you cannot buy those ratings. Just Google US Mobile. Make a decision for yourself. If you're ready, visit usmobile.com.
Consumer Reports does not endorse products or services.
Whether you're behind the wheel or on a bike, safety starts with following the law. New Jersey bicyclists riding at night must use a white front light and red rear light visible from 600 feet away. Drivers, remember the safe passing law. Give at least 4 feet when passing people walking or biking, or slow down until it's safe. Share the road, save a life. A message from the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic and Safety and Cross County Connection. Learn more at driveless.com.
Fresh seafood, ice-cold cocktails, and sunsets that steal the show. Welcome to Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant. Grab a table inside, kick back on the deck overlooking the bay, or catch the big game at Sliders Bar. Dive into mouth-watering seafood favorites, including Yuri's famous all-you-can-eat crabs, tropical summer drinks, daily specials, plus a kids menu and an arcade the whole family will love. And right next door, the Boathouse Restaurant serves up steak, seafood, and unforgettable waterfront views. 2 amazing spots, 1 legendary Jersey Shore experience. Yuri's and the Boathouse at the foot of the bridge in Wildwood.
South Jersey's official play-by-play home of the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
At 0 point would I ever consider not being a fan of the team.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
Finally!
This is Hanging with Hennig.
I have friends everywhere.
On 97.3 ESPN Radio, South Jersey.
In New Jersey. Am I right?
Yeah. Live feed on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
It seems to run on some form of electricity.
Well, you're not wrong.
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together.
Now, here's your host.
He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Josh Hennig.
Hour 2 of Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. We're continuing the football talk because the Eagles play tonight. Yes, we have an Eagles game tonight. I know pretty much no starters are playing. There's a lot of interesting storylines with this game. I want to find out, are some of the guys I am keeping an eye on lining up with our next guest, Caden Steele, NJ.com. Of course, you heard him join us last year on 97.3 ESPN, and he is back again this year. And it's one of those deals where it's like when you start hearing certain guests on 97.3 ESPN, that's how you know football is back. Caden, welcome in. How you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing good. So what I wanted to start with you is, I think one of the biggest questions going into this game tonight, and it might not be the sexiest thing to start off a conversation with, but I think it's extremely important. In light of we are now 7 days removed from Lane Johnson making the announcement, this is probably his last year. I think that seeing guys like Markel Bell, whether it's a Cameron Williams, seeing those guys in action tonight might be arguably the most important thing Philadelphia gets out of the game tonight.
I would argue on Markel Bell because I do think he has a legitimate shot to be the heir apparent. I'm not sure if it's like, it's not 100% guaranteed. They're going to have to see it throughout the year before, Lane, eventually walks away after this year, it sounds like. But, I mean, Markel Bell's been really good in camp. For a guy who's 6'9", he has extremely, very light feet, and he moves well. He's been pretty impressive in 101s and team drills. You can make an argument, and I think it's fair to make the argument that he's been better than Fred Johnson, that he has a chance to be the swing tackle this year. I'm not sure, who the Ravens are going to necessarily play, as their edge rushers, but if they play their third, fourth, fifth edge rushers, yeah, I'm curious to see how Markel Bell fares in pass protection and as a run blocker, because he could, within a year be one of the most important players on this team moving forward, because we know how important Lane Johnson has been, how much the Eagles have struggled when he hasn't played. Can they have a smooth transition when he does retire? And tonight will be the first kind of small sign of finding out whether that's possible.
I also know that, Philadelphia, they have tried to invest resources, Caden, into the offensive line in recent years. And, it's not just Lane Johnson that's under the microscope for his future, but, there was a lot of speculation of what is the future of Landon Dickerson after this year, right? So to me, it's not just the tackles. It's also, is there somebody who can maybe, if needed, I'm not saying we want this, but God forbid someone does get injured on the interior of the O-line, who's stepping into that role?
Yeah, I think the player that to keep an eye on if you're an Eagles fan tonight. I know there's been a lot of hype about Willie Lampkin, but I'll say it's Drew Kendall, the second-year center guard out of Boston College. They took in the 5th round last year. I think he's had another really strong camp. He's going into the year as most likely the top interior at center and guard. And you don't know if Landon Dickerson. I think Landon's looked fine, pretty good in training camp, but I mean, he has a long list of injuries. We don't know how long he'll stay healthy for this year. Cam Jurgens, to me, has looked very athletic in camp, rejuvenated. I know he left a couple of practices early, but it didn't seem like to be anything serious. He came back and he's continuing to look good. But again, we don't know if he's going to stay healthy. So there is a shot that Drew Kendall does play this year, and he will come off the bench to play center or guard. And then you think long term, yeah, we don't know what Landon's future will look like if he gets hurt again. What will the Eagles decide to do there moving forward? Tyler Steen's a free agent also after this year as a guard. So Drew Kendall is a player that the Eagles are high on, and he's played well in training camp. And there's a sneaky chance that he might be a potential starter, in 2027 or 2028. I think he's been pretty impressive throughout camp.
So with Caden Steele, check out all of his work at NJ.com. Of course, the Eagles playing tonight versus the Ravens. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN with every Eagles game. Merrill Reese, Mike Quick calling all the action. Stay on the offensive side of the ball. I think the other big question on offense is, who is Tanner McKee? Because this is a guy that, 2 years ago, Caden, when he had that game against the aforementioned Ravens, people were losing their minds. They're like, who is this guy? We've never heard of him before. He's a 6th, 7th round pick. He's from Stanford. What did he do there? He's got a big arm. Like you saw the online chat. People were losing their minds for the last 2 years about this guy. But now you brought in Andy Dalton. Now it's a new offense. So what do we need to look out for from Tanner McKee tonight?
Yeah, Tanner McKee, the arm strength is still there, like the size, like some of the stuff that people are infatuated with, but he hasn't had a great summer. He didn't even have a great spring. He's been a little better of recent. The biggest problem is just at practice, for whatever reason, when he's running this offense, he seems really indecisive with where to go with the football. He's holding the ball forever. He seems hesitant to kind of, a little bit gun shy with the ball, and I don't know why that is. Maybe he's just not seeing things well. And then you watch Andy Dalton, and there's a clear difference. Obviously, he's been in similar systems before. He was there with the last year with Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. He was there with Dave Canales in Carolina, who runs a little bit of this system. So he kind of knows it, and he's played a lot of football. And you can see he's a lot more decisive. He doesn't have the arm Tanner McKee does. He can't really push it. I just think the arm is starting to, become a little weak from Andy Dalton. I guess that would be the concern. But he knows the system better, which probably gives him a little bit of an edge. I think the competition right now is close, but it's kind of surprising, right, Josh, that it's even close when you consider the hype around Tanner McKee, and not just from the fans. The Eagles organization has held him in high regard. We've seen trade rumors about him the last few years. They haven't traded him yet. They have seemed to be very high on Tanner McKee, and now there's a legitimate competition where it's not guaranteed that he's going to win the job. So it is fascinating, and you want to see him tonight be decisive with the football, not hold it for a long time, and you want to feel like he can continue to grow as a quarterback, because I think he's taken a step back for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think some people have asserted that, he's having trouble, getting a full grasp of the new offense. Some people have asserted that, because there's not as many deep throws in this new offense versus the previous, that maybe, he doesn't have developed the bread and butter to do the other stuff as well yet. So I'm very curious to see what he does tonight. And you mentioned the fact that he has not been traded. The Eagles have a long history of trading backup quarterbacks. So no one would be surprised if he does play well in the preseason, if fill in the blank team gives a call because of a quarterback injury, and Tanner McKee, maybe he could be this year's Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I think it's more than likely by the end of preseason that they trade one of Andy Dalton or Tanner McKee, whoever they can get the most value for. We'll see how it shakes out. You think you would get more for Tanner McKee because he's younger. There's more upside there with Tanner, and you figure there might be a market there because there have been teams in the past who have been interested. So, and when you look at the quarterback depth chart right now, I mean, last year you saw they've taken some developmental quarterbacks in the past and they haven't really panned out. Like Kyle McCord just wasn't very good last year, but Cole Payton, who they took in the 5th round this year, has more physical upside. Like he has a really live arm in practice. He makes some tight window throws. He's not afraid to try to fit it in there. And that's a good and bad thing because he throws some interceptions as well, but he's also a very good athlete. I think the Eagles like him enough, and there's enough there long-term where he could be a potential backup where I don't know if they're going to risk waiving him and allowing another team to pick him up on waivers. I think it's more likely the loser of Andy Dalton and Tanner McKee does get traded by the end of the summer.
Let's run out the offense going with the wide receiver position. Obviously, we're not going to see Mekhi Lemon tonight. No Devontae Smith. Probably no Wicks. I'm assuming maybe not even Hollywood Brown tonight. So who do you actually think is going to get action, and who do you think needs to get action of the rest of the group?
Yeah, you mentioned Hollywood Brown, and I'm not sure either because I think it's fair to think maybe they already know kind of who he is. Like, is there real value in playing him in a preseason game? But he's been rough in camp. He's been on 3 of Jalen Hurts' interceptions of some sort of miscommunication on the other end. It's been a rough go there. He dropped the pass the other day in practice. He's had a hard time creating consistent separation. He's known for a guy with this deep speed, and they brought him in. They gave him $5 million guaranteed, but he's been outplayed by Elijah Moore. He's been outplayed by Darius Cooper. I don't think he's been that much better than Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson's arguably made more at least flashy plays. Had a deep ball, I said a week ago in practice over Mac McWilliams, had a touchdown as well. I just haven't seen much from Hollywood Brown that makes me think he deserves to be on the team other than they gave him $5 million guaranteed. So, I would play him. We'll see if he does play. I do expect Darius Cooper to be out there. And I'll have to say, I do think the hype is legit. I think he's a really good player, but he's a young player who needs more reps. If it translates to the preseason like it did last year, he's even better than he was last year. I think it's going to be bode well, for his future. I think he should be wide receiver 4 for the Eagles. He's had one of the best training camps of any player all summer long. I think we'll see, Elijah Moore and Johnny Wilson and guys like that farther down the depth chart who have an opportunity to try to lock up a roster spot. Elijah Moore has been pretty good in camp. You would think that maybe he needs to bring some extra value. They've occasionally tried, having him as a punt returner during practice, had him return some kicks at times. If he could show in that area, I think that will help his cause. But the wide receiver battle has been really fun this summer, and I'm excited to see where it goes tonight.
Not to dwell on it, but you did mention the fact of Jalen Hurts and obviously the infamous now video of him throwing the interception to Quinyon Mitchell, which again was originally the video was supposed to be highlighting Quinyon Mitchell cutting in front of Hollywood Brown to get the ball. But I had Nick Ferguson on here, 97.3 ESPN, the former 10-year NFL safety. He thinks the outrage is outrageous. People reacting to it. Dan Orlovsky, infamously or famously, depending on who you ask, went on a rant on ESPN on 2 different shows this week. So in your mind, is it an overreaction, people reacting the way they are to that one interception by Hurts at training camp?
Yeah, totally. Because, whether you want to argue that was his fault or not, or if it was a bad play, and it wasn't a great throw, but it's one play of 10 days of practice. I think Hurts overall has been very impressive this summer. We talk about Tanner McKee struggling and being indecisive and not knowing where to go with the ball and holding it forever. And I haven't seen that same indecisiveness with Hurts. I think he's been decisive for the most part. He has attacked the middle of the field more, and that's been a big criticism of him. But I've seen that. I've seen him not afraid to rip it, and give his guys a chance on contested catches, throwing with anticipation. And I think he looks lighter and faster. I think this is a positive summer for Jalen Hurts so far. I can't guarantee he's going to play great in the regular season. It's going to transfer over. But in practice, I think he's been a very steady to very good quarterback. And you have to be encouraged by that. And it's one play. And it's an all-pro cornerback. And he's going to make plays like that. And Yeah, and it's a shame in a sense that guy, overshadowed a little bit. That Quinyon Mitchell has been arguably the best player in the entirety of training camp. I mean, he's been the biggest question is like, can he just get some turnovers in the regular season to improve his stock even more? Well, he's been awesome. He's got 3 interceptions in training camp. The instincts are there. The ball production is starting to improve even more. Like, this is a guy that could be a potential defensive player of the year candidate if the interceptions come in the regular season. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about a 5-second clip of Jalen Hurts throwing an interception.
Speaking of defense, a couple guys I want to hit on with you on defense. I think that this could be a big month for Ty Robinson. This is a guy when he came in, a lot of people were excited about. People were like, we saw him at Nebraska. We saw how much of a beast he was. He was kind of invisible last year. And so what does he got to do over this and then the next 2 preseason games to solidify his role for 2026?
Yeah, he's going to have to play well. He's going to really put it all together and have a good game or two and more consistent in practice. The one positive, I think, over the last week or so, he's been a little better. We've seen him get a couple sacks in practice. He's flashed a little more in one-on-ones. But just down the down, he's still not very consistent. I think the biggest problem is when you watch him, you just don't, see a ton of like explosive, get off. It's just, he doesn't have like that explosive trait I think you would want out of a defensive tackle. And, even on one of his sacks, you could say it was a coverage sack. It was on Tanner McKee, actually, who held the ball forever. So it's been very up and down this summer. I think there's still a ton of question marks. I wouldn't feel great about him moving forward. It's been a little better. I think his hand usage is decent. He has a nice club move. He could do a little thing, stuff here and there, but for a 4th round pick, you would want to see just a little more impact. And I think overall he's been a disappointment. And right now I would say he's firmly on the roster bubble. I think it helps that he was a 4th round pick. They might give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's not a guy that I would feel great about moving forward unless he really builds off a little bit of progress this week and really, ratchets it up and becomes good.
Oh, I will say Davion Taylor was cut 2 years after he was a 3rd round pick. So, Howie ain't afraid.
No.
We know that for a fact. Do you think they're going to stick on defense? Is there a competition right now between Jacorian Bennett and Mac McWilliams for that backup corner? Because I feel like both guys are coming into this camp with something to prove.
Yeah. And you look at the backup cornerback position, it's probably the one where you feel the weakest about in the depth. I mean, you can make an argument for safety too, but I don't feel great particularly about Jacorian Bennett. He had a nice PBU in practice the other day while covering Elijah Moore, but other than that, it's been a relatively quiet summer. He struggled when he even played in preseason last year and the few snaps in the regular season. It's not a guy I would feel good about. Keely Ringo, I think we've learned now, is strictly a special teams player. There's not much there at corner. And then Jonathan Jones has been out recently with a shoulder injury, and I don't know when he's coming back. So they're a little thin at that position. But I'll say, for people watching this defense tonight, I think Mac McWilliams is coming on. He had a rep the other day in practice against Hollywood Brown, where Hollywood Brown was trying to get to the pylon, run an out route, and Mac McWilliams read Jalen Hurts' eyes and jumped the pass for an interception. And there's been other moments where he's knocked down passes and got some PBUs, and I think he's pretty sticky in coverage, and he shows he can play on the outside. I think that's where his natural spot is. And right now, if I had to say who cornerback 4 in this team would be this year, I would say probably Mac McWilliams, maybe Jonathan Jones if he comes back from the shoulder injury and looks good because of the veteran experience. But I expect Mac McWilliams to be on this roster and be one of their top backups. And he's gotten better. The only real knock you could say is I think he's a little small in some of the play strength. Sometimes he loses contested catch situations, but overall he's been pretty solid this summer. I would feel good about him, but the rest of the corner room is a little shaky behind, obviously the top guys.
Absolutely. Well, Caden Steele joining us here on 97.3 ESPN, NJ.com. We get all this Eagles coverage for NJ Advanced Media. And of course, Eagles, Ravens tonight. Folks can hear it right here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll be talking with Caden throughout the football season as well. Great stuff today. Appreciate you jumping on.
Thank you, Josh. Have a good day.
Josh Hennig here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. And coming up is going to be the Ivy Rehab injury report with over 18 locations around South Jersey offering best-in-class outpatient physical therapy. And joining us on the other side is going to be clinical director for Ivy Rehab Rehabilitation, Vinny. Now, I'm going to say his name because I thought I had his name correctly, but then he sent me a pronunciation guide. So it's Ceasrine. So we're going to find out from him if I'm even saying his name right. But Vinny Ceasrine is going to be joining us next. Again, he is the clinical director for Ivy Rehabilitation. He will be joining us to talk about what is going on with Phillies relief pitcher Caleb Killian's oblique, as well as what is going on with Jonathan Grenard's pec injury. So that is coming up next. Plus, more of your texts a little bit later this hour, 609-403-0973. Hanging with Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. And we are streaming live on YouTube next. Just follow at Josh Hennig.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio. It's a critical showdown in the AL West.
Gone! A line drive home run to left center for Alvarez.
While the Houston Astros are fighting for the top of the division, the Seattle Mariners are lurking a few games back, and they go head-to-head this weekend.
Julio Rodriguez, a 2-run blast.
The Mariners at the Astros on Sunday Night Baseball.
Your radio home of Sunday Night Baseball. 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 6:30.
The Stone Harbor Bar and Grill on 96th Street is Stone Harbor's most complete entertainment experience. Great food, fun, and libations, and newly remodeled for 2026. The same great owners and all your favorite menu items remain, and now we've taken things up a notch with a brand new bar, new sound system, 36 brand new 4K TVs, and more. No matter where you sit, you always have a perfect sight line to the big game, and you've got to try our mouth-watering new menu items. Start your meal with blackened scallops, homemade fried pickles, or a cheeseburger flatbread. Try our new Chicago-style dog, or the Mary Ann sandwich, a chicken cutlet, broccoli rabe, and sharp provolone on world-famous Rando's Bakery Atlantic City bread. The Stone Harbor Bar and Grill sources only the top ingredients and serves up the best quality food. Voted best wings of Stone Harbor and the Jersey Shore by Lord of the Wings. Prime rib nights Friday and Saturdays, rib nights on Sundays, and Mike the Magician Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The newly remodeled Stone Harbor Bar and Grill on 96th Street in the heart of Stone Harbor. Open 11:30 a.m. till midnight, 7 days a week. Go to stoneharborbarandgrill.com or call 609-961-3534 for more.
Making your home look brand new is what Work of Art Construction can do for you. Ready to remodel your bathroom or have a kitchen makeover? Art Masker has 40 years of experience in construction and knows how to make your home look like a work of art. Want to install a new back deck or invest in a new front door? Just call Art Masker at 609-788-4271 to learn more. Visit Work of Art Construction on Instagram to see how Work of Art Construction can make your home look brand new. Beautify your home with Work of Art. Call him at 609-788-4271 and let them make your home truly a work of art.
Brand new Kias, $179 a month. $179 at RK. RK Kia of Vineland, New Jersey. Now through Monday, get new 26 Kia K4 LXS, just $179 a month. That's right, $179 for brand new Kia K4s. Even new Sportage LX, just $267 a month. $267 plus 0% financing, 0 for 72 months. At RK Kia of Vineland, save thousands with Labor Day pricing on the entire Kia lineup. Even the all-new 2027 Telluride, plus acres of Kia certified pre-owned, and you get RK coverage, no charge. Ding repair, tire repair, wheel repair, windshield repair, and more. New Kia K4s, $179 a month. New Sportage, $267 a month. Hurry, now through Monday at RK Kia of Vineland. RK does it right. MyRKKia.com. MyRKKia.com. To qualified buyers, plus tax and tag. For details, call 856-641-1111 or MyRKKia.com.
Heartburn. Quick, Alka-Seltzer. Because nothing is worse than heartburn after a long day. When you're finally off the clock, dinner's done, feet kicked up, kids asleep, and boom, heartburn tries to steal the moment. Quick, Alka-Seltzer. Because nothing works faster for heartburn relief. The effervescent tablets start neutralizing acid in seconds, so you can sit back, relax, and unwind from your day. Next time heartburn hits,
quick, Alka-Seltzer.
Use as directed.
Getting ready to hit the water? Stop by Hands 2 Bait and Tackle, located just before the Cape May Bridge. Hands 2 Bait and Tackle is your one-stop shop for fishing and crabbing. From fresh bait like clams, bunker, and minnows to rods, reels, and apparel, they've got everything you need. Not sure what's biting? The Hands 2 crew will point you in the right direction with the latest local reports and expert advice. Whether you're chasing stripers or crabbing with the family, stop in or call 609-884-BAIT, BAIT.
In the military, the mission was clear. You knew what to do. Now, the mission has changed. Stepping into civilian life isn't about finding a job. It's finding your purpose.
I wanted a career that would leverage the skills and discipline I gained in the military. IT just felt right.
My Computer Career offers class schedules that fit into your life and skills in high demand. Put your VA benefits to work. Visit mycomputercareer.edu/CWP to jumpstart your IT career today. An elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Is your trading stopping you from shopping? It's time to drop in some Matt Blatt Nissan.
Back to school and looking cool. Thanks to Matt Blatt Nissan and Matt Blatt Infinity.
Are you in detention in your old car? Get up to $4,000 over Kelly Blue Book Fair Trade Value for any trade-in.
Come see us today
at Matt Blatt Nissan and Matt Blatt Infinity.
On the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township.
It's time to drop in some Matt Blatt Nissan.
Max trade for the purchase of select models. Expires May 10th.
You're hanging with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM.
Hey, you know what? There's another name you might know me by. Star-Lord.
And on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Who? Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
Josh Hennig back here and Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. It is time for the Ivy Rehab Injury Report with over 80 locations around South Jersey offering best-in-class outpatient physical therapy. I can say that because they were my physical therapist. That's what we have them on each and every week here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, today we got a couple of interesting injuries to get into, and joining us to talk more about them. Now, I'm going to fully admit, I said this before I went to break, and I'll say it again. Vinny sent me a pronunciation guide, and I got to tell you, Vinny, you confused the you-know-what out of me. So I'm going to try to think what I think the pronunciation is.
You can just call me Vinny. We're fine. We're good.
So, Ceasrine.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It only took my wife about 8 years to figure out how to say it. So we're good.
Ah, all right. Well, see, that's what I thought it was. But then you said the email this morning, and you confused me. So
I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
But listen, we do have some interesting injuries to get through with some guys because, you know, for those who don't listen all the time here on 97.3 ESPN, we do the injury report every single week, and it's usually somebody in the news. And for the Phillies who desperately need pitching, that's why they acquired Caleb Killian, and now he is on the 15-day injured list with a left oblique strain. Now, there is no official timeline for when he is returning, but reports say that he is going to be out the rest of the month of August. So, Vinny, talk to us about, you know, for a position that is so heavily dependent on mechanics and repeating the same motion again and again. Why does it seem like pitchers get these oblique injuries and it puts them so completely out of action?
Well, I'm happy we're talking about this because it's something we also got to keep an eye on down the road when he returns. We're going to talk about why that is, but they're calling it a moderate oblique strain. So typically, if it's on the glove side, it's going to be an internal oblique. So we have an internal and external oblique on each side of our abdominals, and that muscle is the link between the lower half and the torso. And again, we can't rush back once he's done with rehab. And before delving into the injury, I think we should talk a little bit about how everything is linked between the lower half and the top half in pitchers. And again, we treat a lot of overhead throwers in our clinic. So this is kind of right up our alley. We'll talk a lot about this, but we see some oblique injuries that can lead to further issues, which we'll talk about. So let's go over quickly. So the pitching is by far the most dynamic athletic activity. The ability to throw efficiently and reduce risk of injury. It's an interdependence of muscular and neuromuscular between all body segments from the foot all the way up to the hand. In order to throw properly, we've got to be able to transfer those forces from the lower extremities to what we call the kinetic chain up until the arm through the act of throwing and also during deceleration. All right. So we've even had a lot of issues where we get kids with shoulder and elbow issues and we go in and we look and the problems are actually coming from downstream. So the core basically transfer forces from the lower half of the arm to the trunk. The internal oblique on the glove side links the pelvis and hips to the upper body to transfer those forces. So it basically acts as a bridge in order to channel energy from the lower half to the upper half. So if there's a couple things that can happen. So in order for that internal oblique muscle on the glove side to work efficiently, we have to get what we call the serape effect, which is a separation between your pelvis and your trunk. So when we throw the pitchers, once their foot lands, the pelvis has to open first and the trunk has to follow. That separation, that will actually lengthen the internal oblique and then let it produce efficiently. So we're taking out to maximum amount of stretch, and then it's going to be able to rebound and then throw and then aid to our throwing because it's going to rotate your trunk and flex you forward. So any problems along that whole link of chain can put that internal oblique on, cause it to have an increased risk of injury. But there's two things I want to note about Caleb. So I went back and did a little research. So apparently he had an injury in the spring of 2024 for his right shoulder, where he had some cuff issues, and he missed half the season. So that's one thing. And then since joining the Phillies, I also noticed another thing. So he's had 4 appearances in 6 days. And what I did was I looked at his last 20 appearances, and I broke them down to 4 appearance blocks. And in each of those, his average rest days were 10. All right. So he's went from 10 days rest between 4 appearances to 6 since he joined the Phillies. So, I mean, again, I don't know. I've never seen it before. But again, if there is any fatigue related, that's going to basically cause some issues because it's going to decrease that trunk control. So once you start to fatigue and you miss that link between your pelvis opening and your trunk staying back, it puts that internal oblique at a major disadvantage. So right now, again, when he starts to return to throwing, they're really going to have to keep an eye on his mechanics that there's no compensatory changes. But so that's why that muscle group is very can get injured very easily. Anytime there's any kind of link between the lower and the upper half. And the typical throwing mechanic deficiency we see, especially in younger throwers, is opening the trunk early, or what we call early trunk rotation. That, again, it doesn't allow you to get that stretching of that internal oblique, which then allows it to work efficiently. So whether there might have been some fatigue involved, maybe didn't get the proper hip separation, it's kind of hard to say.
So then what are like the checkpoints that someone would need to go through in order to actually return from this, to be able to say, hey, now you can go out there and do what you were doing before the injury? Right.
So again, I was reading through and it looks like they listed them as a moderate internal oblique strain, which usually means typically about 3 to 6 weeks. So I think the key here is, in order for him to return to throwing, if we had someone come in like that, there'd be a couple things. We need them to be a basic twist and bend without any pain. We would do a manual muscle test where we put them in a position where that muscle is firing. It would have to be equal to the other side and pain-free. And then we would return to throwing. But here's my thing. If we get a kid in that comes in, or any college or professional, and they've got that strain, the early stages in rehab, I'm making sure they're doing everything and they've got all the things that they need in order to get that trunk separation. So why does someone open up their trunk early? Well, functionally, if you don't have enough shoulder external rotation where you can't get your arm back, you're going to open your trunk early. If you don't have enough hip internal rotation, that backside hip, the trail leg, if that can't rotate internally, you're not going to be able to separate your pelvis from your hip. And then again, decrease in trunk rotation. So for me, I'm looking at, okay, we're going to calm that down at internal oblique. But in the meantime, I want to make sure you got those other 3 entities ready to roll. So when it's time to return to throwing, then we know you've got everything that you need. And again, once he returns to throwing, they're going to have to really keep an eye on his mechanics, because what might happen is, again, our body will tend to compensate. So if we know that we get to that stretch position where that internal oblique's getting stretched, subconsciously, if you're like, you know what, I'm not going to allow it to stretch too much because I don't want to get to a point of injury, then I might open my trunk early. Well, that's fine. But now all of a sudden you're going to put increased pressure on your inside medial elbow or your anterior front of your shoulder. So it's a mechanical block. And if you don't take care of the bottom half, you may ultimately have some issues in the top half. And I'll give you a great example history-wise, Nolan Ryan, granted he was 46, but he pitched 20-some years. He never had an elbow or shoulder injury. But in August of his last year, he had a rib cage strain, which was probably an internal oblique strain. A month later, he blew out his UCL. So again, 46, but never injury. Had an internal, I'm assuming it was an internal oblique injury. Returns to pitching a month later, blows out his UCL. So again, those are things we need to look at. And that's the things we look at our pitchers in our clinic is, look, you're coming for this, but more than likely something downstream is happening that's going to change your mechanics, put undue stress. So again, that's where I would go with Khalib at this point.
And I think that's a great example talking about Ryan, because one, that's a guy who went 20 years between any type of injury issues. 20 years is a long time, by the way, when you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And two, go ahead.
No, again, he was 46, but again, it seems kind of more than coincidental that you have an abdominal injury and then a month later you're blowing out UCL. It's just,
And the other thing I was going to bring up is, from my experience, one of the reasons why I went to Ivy Rehab Physical Therapy was because, I described the pain in one area, but then when I got the MRI, it was actually something different. So then I had to go in, and basically we were working so many other things around the neck area.
Right, yeah.
But even though the neck area was the origin point of the injury.
Right. So again, we just had a study. We've just had 2 studies that were published in the last year that really looked at. We had kids with shoulder issues, but there's shoulder and medial elbow injuries, and we're looking for the link from actually the cervical spine. So those kids may come in and not complain of neck issues, but when you go up top, you start finding that they're kind of lit up. So it's an amazing thing, but you can't just treat that symptom. If someone comes in with like an elbow problem, you can't just treat the elbow. Why is he having the elbow problem? And the abdominal, it's the link to the lower half to top half. And if we're not looking at the whole kinetic chain, you're going to be missing something. So, but yeah, it's an interesting one, but it's not uncommon. And again, the reoccurrence rate of those internal abdominal oblique injuries can be up to 12 to 15% somewhere down the road. So something to keep an eye on.
Talking with Vinny Ceasrine here from Ivy Rehab here on the Ivy Rehab Injury Report here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Let's flip it over to the Eagles now. Jonathan Gennardi has missed the last 2 weeks of training camp. He's unavailable to play tonight and for the next 2 weeks, say the Eagles. Now, they are calling it a pectoral strain. And what's interesting to highlight about this is, one, this is a guy who had shoulder surgery several months ago.
Right.
So that's one factor. The other factor is he did this while weightlifting. And that's what I want to start with.
Yeah.
We hear all the time people sustaining pectoral injuries when they're weightlifting. So what is it about weight training, especially for athletes, that leads into these kind of injuries?
Right. Okay. So that's a good, well, we actually have one of our therapists who tore his pec lifting a couple of years ago. So again, what's going to typically happen is, first of all, it's usually in the age group of 20 to 40, athletic males. Females are very rare that they're going to tear their pec. So what usually happens, it's usually mostly related to bench press, can be related to flies. It's basically on the eccentric load of that bench press that's where it's going to be torn. And the reason is because when we do an eccentric or negative, you're actually, the muscle's lengthening, you're able to put more stress through that muscle. So again, that's usually the mechanism of injury. We have had traumatic. We treated a professional quarterback years ago who was up in that 90-90 position, and he got hit and just drove his arm back, and then the pec got stretched and torn. But for the most part, they're usually going to cure weightlifting. And interesting enough, actually more, you would think sometimes maybe benching with dumbbells would be a little bit more dangerous, but usually more with the straight bar. And I think part of it is because 2 things. One is your arm is kind of locked in that position on the bar. And number 2 is you're able to push more weight with a straight bar than you are with 2 dumbbells. So it's that eccentric negative loading where you're overstressing the muscle can't withstand it. And then you either, now again, there's different grades, there's different strains, and there's different areas of the muscle group. So, and that's going to really determine how fast your rehab is. Now, they didn't say if he had a minor or moderate strain. I'm assuming it's a moderate because I was listening to Vic Fangio talking about that he's, it doesn't sound like he's going to be doing anything during training camp.
Right.
So if that occurs, you're typically looking at about a moderate or a partial tear. You're looking at probably a 6 to 12 week time frame. And then heavy resistive training, you probably can't start. And again, I don't know the situation, but you usually can't start till around 8 to 10 weeks. So, and again, with his position, I mean, he's got to be able to move people, shed blocks. So it's going to be a little bit taxing, but again, you can get the tear. Typically, if you have a strain and it's in the muscle belly, those usually heal pretty quickly because you got a good blood supply. The ones where the muscle turns into the tendon or just moves into the tendon, that's usually where your partial and tears are, and they're moderate tears. And then where the actual tendon inserts into the bone, that's usually, if that comes off, that's usually an avulsion fracture, and that's a grade 3, and then that's surgery, and then you're out, 3 to 4 months. I know J.J. Watt came back like 2.5 months after a pec major repair, but that's kind of on the fast end of returning. So
JJ's also a freak. So
yes, exactly. Yes. Slightly different. Yes. Yeah. There are some people that are genetic freaks. So it occurs, but probably in that 3 to 4 month time frame. They don't typically do surgeries for a partial tear. So this is probably just going to take some time and, hopefully be able to return.
So the other question I wanted to ask you about this is because we've heard stories about sometimes athletes, when recovering from one injury, they train so hard that they neglect another part of the body. So not that we know this for sure, but I think it's an important question to have a conversation about is if someone is recovering from, let's say, a shoulder surgery or anything in the upper body region near the pectoral region, what is the IV rehab physical therapy approach that makes sure people don't sustain another injury on the way to recovery?
All right, so that's a very good point. So again, I tried to do some research and try to find out exactly what surgical procedure he had done, and I couldn't find anything. All I went back and I saw that their coach had said it was a routine procedure, and they really didn't specify. Now, I'm assuming he got injured earlier in the year last year. He returned, and against the Cowboys, he sustained an injury. They had surgery. So I'm not 100% sure, but either way, whether he had a labral repair or a capsule repair or a cuff repair, it's probably not going to matter too much. Either way, the cuff would have been affected, the rotator cuff. So the rotator cuff works to stabilize the ball into the socket. Besides rotation and elevation and things like that, its main function is to keep the ball stabilized in that socket. So theoretically, if you're rehabbing from that and you're not 100% strong enough, then it's conceivable that when you're doing a resistive exercise, another muscle group is going to have to pick up that stability issue. And it's conceivable. I don't think there's necessarily a direct link. And again, I don't know what he had done previous to this. And again, I tried to do my due diligence on it, but I couldn't really find exactly what. But yeah, we see that all the time in the rehab facilities. You have an injury, it affects something else. I'll give you a typical one. If you have somebody who sprains their ankle and it's really swollen, there's a reflex that your glutes are going to get inhibited. So if I see somebody come in 2 weeks post ankle sprain, and I go up and check their glute strength, it's crap. So, but then again, if you don't address that, your glutes work to help stabilize your lower half when you're on one leg. If you don't address that, you're going to be more prone down the road to possibly rolling over your ankle. So yeah, everything is kind of linked, but without knowing what he had done, it'd be kind of hard to say, but I'm assuming there might be some kind of correlation to that. And again, if something like that, maybe if you're using dumbbells or you got something outside your peripheral vision and you can't, you lose that ability to stabilize or have that awareness of where your shoulder is in space, and your pec's got to fire maybe a little bit more to control it. So, I mean, again, it's always seems to me a little bit more than coincidental when it's the same side. So,
well, and I know it's not one and the same, but for example, when it came to my personal injury, I had affected my shoulder, my left shoulder, before my neck got messed up. And what happened was that, I was basically compensating for the shoulder, and then I fell, and then my neck got messed up. So it's one of those deals where it's like, if the one isn't there, sometimes the other can't happen, right?
Exactly. And again, without knowing, what he had done before, it's kind of hard to say, but either way, it's probably going to be, if they're calling it, if they're saying he's going to be out to training camp, I mean, it must have been a pretty substantial injury to his pec, but hopefully he'll be getting back as soon as possible.
He is Vinny Ceasrine. He is the let me get to the title here. Clinical Director of IV Rehabilitation at Westfield is where he works out of, and he joined us here for this week's IV Rehab Injury Report here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. And as I always say, they are best-in-class outpatient physical therapy, and I know personally because they were my physical therapists. You know, Dr. Josh already put up with me for several months, so I can confirm that you guys do a great job. And Vinny, great stuff today. I appreciate you jumping on.
Okay. All right, man. Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.
Josh Hennig back here in the 97.3 ESPN studios all night on, of course, the Saturday edition, Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, tonight we have Eagles Preseason Game Number 1 versus the Ravens. You can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. But the Phillies and the Eagles are playing at the same time. So I would recommend you do one of two things. You either, one, grab some friends, go down to the Stone Harbor Bar and Grill with their brand new 4K TV so you can watch both the Phillies and the Eagles play at the same time. Or if you're going to watch the games at home, why don't you go stop by and visit my friends at Boulevard Super Liquors at the foot of the Ocean City 34th Street Bridge, just minutes off Garden State Parkway, exit 25. So two options. You can either go out to watch the games, or you can stay in to watch the games. But either way, go visit my friends either at Stone Harbor Bar and Grill on 96th Street in Stone Harbor or Boulevard Super Liquors to stock up for your weekend. More of Hanging with Hennig coming up next on 97.3 ESPN.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens tonight. Pre-game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
The catch is made by Henry, and he is just bounced down by Cooper DeJean.
What a great tackle by Cooper DeJean.
This is South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN.
Whether you are stocking up for a summer party, a day at the beach, or that golden hour dinner at your favorite BYOB restaurant, your one-stop shopping destination where I go for every occasion is Boulevard Super Liquors. At the foot of the Ocean City 34th Street Bridge, Boulevard Super Liquors has the best selection of craft beer, whiskey, vodka, wines, and tequila in all of South Jersey. Plus, they are minutes from Garden State Parkway, exit 25, so you can easily stop into Boulevard Super Liquors on your travels all around South Jersey. Family owned and operated for 4 generations, Boulevard Super Liquors also has the largest temperature-controlled wine room in New Jersey, offering you the best selection of wines for your next dinner date or social outing. These are just some of the reasons why Boulevard Super Liquors is my go-to. On Roosevelt Boulevard, at the foot of the Ocean City 34th Street Bridge, the best selection of beer and spirits in South Jersey.
Brand new Kias, $179 a month. $179 at RK. RK Kia of Vineland, New Jersey. Now through Monday, get new 26 Kia K4 LXS, just $179 a month. That's right, $179 for brand new Kia K4s. Even new Sportage LX, just $267 a month. $267 plus 0% financing, 0 for 72 months. At RK Kia of Vineland, save thousands with Labor Day pricing on the entire Kia lineup. Even the all-new 2027 Telluride, plus acres of Kia certified pre-owned, and you get RK coverage, no charge. Ding repair, tire repair, wheel repair, windshield repair, and more. New Kia K4s, $179 a month. New Sportage, $267 a month. Hurry, now through Monday at RK Kia of Vineland. RK does it right. MyRKKia.com. MyRKKia.com. To qualified buyers, plus tax and tag. For details, call 856-641-1111 or MyRKKia.com.
Hey, Mom, now that I have an after-school job, I think I want to buy a drum kit.
Okay, Rockstar. Let's look at your account. When kids start making money, Chase has easy-to-use tools and expert bankers to help them learn how to manage it.
And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh, and maybe some noise-canceling headphones for you.
Aw, you've thought of everything. Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Account subject to approval. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Spirits to the sky.
That pallet of pavers collecting dust?
The beginnings of a garden? Those stray fence posts? Are you haunted by half-finished projects on your land? John Deere is here to say, not anymore. Our compact tractors allow you to swap implements easily, and they're backed by the nation's largest dealer network. You always had the right idea, and with the right tools, those projects can get finished for good. Nothing runs like a Deere. Learn more at johndeere.com/compact tractors.
What if you could have the most reliable fiber-powered Wi-Fi? And get this, what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years guaranteed? Now through August 24th, new Xfinity customers can get our best price on gig Wi-Fi this summer before it disappears. Just $50 a month for 5 years. No annual contracts, no hidden fees, and our best equipment included. Plus, get online in minutes with same-day Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them. Like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a 6th sense. Plus, it keeps you protected from online threats. And get Peacock Premium included for 2 years. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities. Get it now at Xfinity.com. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds vary. Use of fiber coaxial cable. Learn more at Xfinity.com/same-day Wi-Fi.
Selling your car? Get to Automotive Avenues, a trusted name at the Jersey Shore. Selling is fast, simple, and worry-free. Just tell them about your car online. Share your VIN and get a guaranteed offer in minutes. A quick call confirms your vehicle's condition with zero pressure and no upfront costs. You get paid fast with pickup scheduled in just a few days. At Automotive Avenues, you're working with a team that genuinely cares. Visit AutoAppNJ.com or stop by 5011 Route 33 in Wall and 573 Delsey Drive in Sewell.
Now back to Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
And on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
Josh Hennig back here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Still to come, my conversation with former NFL safety for a decade, Nick Ferguson. He played for the Broncos and the Texans. He will be joining us coming up in the next hour. Plus more of your text at 609-403-0973. And I may or may not have some UFC Philadelphia picks for you to round out your weekend. I did want to get to this text because Thea in Mays Landing sent in a text. And I feel like this is one of those texts where it deserves a more nuanced answer because it's a question that, whether we like it or not, it's always going to exist in our world, okay? And I don't think that me saying yes or no to the point she brings up does it fair justice. So let's dig into this, all right? So we were talking about Jalen Hurts in the last hour, and we've been talking about Jalen Hurts obviously a lot this offseason because this is a guy that, even though he has the resume in terms of winning that everyone wants, he doesn't have the resume in terms of individual stats that everybody wants. So when we're talking about it in the last hour, Thea from Mays Landing brought up is that we must accept that there is a group of fans and people who are not fans. They are a small but loud contingent that never want a black quarterback. I know this is crazy to you and me, but they exist. That's from Thea in Mays Landing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not deny that there are individuals out there that still take, I don't even know what word you want to use, umbrage, issue. They do take issue with this, the color of people's skin. Okay. And that goes for all directions. Okay. Listen, whether we like to admit it or not, to kind of, repurpose what Thea in Mays Landing is saying, there are people of all different type of skin shades and colors and ethnicities and backgrounds and cultures that just don't like other people of certain backgrounds and cultures and races, etc. That is always going to be there. That is never going away. Where I'm going to push back on what Thea said is that I don't think the people who are the anti-Hurts people are doing it because of that. My experience is the majority of the people who don't like Jalen are also the people who wanted the Eagles to trade for Russell Wilson a few years ago. They're the same people who would rather see Dak Prescott be the Eagles quarterback than Jalen Hurts. They're the people who look at, again, I'm just using other quarterbacks as examples to kind of paint the picture for this. These are the same people who we were talking about Deshaun Watson versus Shedeur Sanders in the last hour. They don't like, excuse me, they don't like Shedeur Sanders, but they would rather have Deshaun Watson be the starter. Okay. And I'm purposely using all quarterbacks with the similar skin shade because of the fact that I think that the group of people we're talking about, the Mays Landing, are not people who are anti-black quarterback necessarily. They're anti-quarterback who doesn't fit the narrative that they like when it comes to the quarterback position. Quarterbacks, whether we like it or not, again, repurposing what we are saying here, there is a perception of the quarterback position that if you don't look, act, talk, and perform a certain way, we just don't like you. So if a quarterback does not present himself to the media in an affable and outgoing and personable way, or if you have a quarterback who is too outspoken about his faith, or if you have a quarterback who logistically just isn't, the ideal, perfect image of a quarterback that we tend to have grown up with, there is always going to be an anti-sentiment about that guy. It's not that Dak Prescott is better than Jalen Hurts, but it's that he plays the game in a way that is more traditional in the way we like to see our quarterbacks operate. It's not that Deshaun Watson is better than Shedeur Sanders. It's the fact that Deshaun Watson looks, acts, and talks in a way that is more relatable to certain people than Shedeur Sanders. And it doesn't matter that I think Deshaun Watson should never play football again because he obviously is a serial sexual assaulter, and that Shedeur Sanders just doesn't like violate people's sensibilities because all they know of him is that they think he's Deion's kid and he's a Nepo baby. It doesn't matter to these people that Jalen Hurts has more Super Bowl wins than Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson combined. It's that Jalen does not have the ideal look. And you know what? He's not the most identifiable player. And you know who else is in that category is Baker Mayfield. People hate Baker Mayfield. They call him a bum. They call him irrational. They call him radical. And all Baker Mayfield has done is prove his doubters wrong. I think one of the problems is we live in a world where people make a judgment on you. And that judgment to them is fact for the rest of that person's life, even if that judgment is completely and utterly wrong. Hour 3, hanging with Hennig. Josh Hennig coming up next on 97.3 ESPN.
Go to get your game on at the Fanatics Sportsbook in the gallery at Ocean Casino Resort. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go where fans become fanatics at the Fanatics Sportsbook in the gallery. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Is your trading stopping you from shopping? It's time to drop in some Matt Blatt Nissan. Back to school and looking cool thanks to Matt Blatt Nissan and Matt Blatt Infinity. Are you in detention in your old car? Get up to $4,000 over Kelley Blue Book Fair Trade Value for any trade-in. Come see us today at Matt Blatt Nissan and Matt Blatt Infinity. On the Black Horse, Pike and Egg Harbor Township. It's time to drop in some Matt Blatt Nissan.
Max trade for the purchase of select models. Expires month end.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell, definitely not an attorney.
This is Chuck. Do you feel stupid for buying a timeshare? Don't. It's not your fault. You were most likely told you could rent it, and it was a great financial investment. And the deal was available today only. If this happened to you, contact your resort or Wesley Financial Group for help today.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-939-1441. 800-939-1441.
South Jersey summers are all about sunshine, sand, and staying cool. Beat the heat with Broadway's from fast service to emergency repairs and plumbing to keep your drains flowing smooth. Ready to upgrade your AC? Take advantage of 0% financing and utility rebates so you can have a worry-free summer. Family owned and operated since 1911. Call 609-390-3907 or visit broadleys.net today.
The name you know, the service you trust.
I scream. You scream. We all scream. Because Wendy's famous small classic Frosty is just $1 for a limited time. More screaming, happy screaming, summer screaming, dollar small classic Frosty screaming! But please don't scream in the drive-thru. It hurts the employees' ears. Get a $1 small classic Frosty for a limited time, only at Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. A la carte only, not valid for delivery. Limit 10 per transaction. Price may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii.
Big prizes, big celebration, and 2 chances to win at Bridgeton Auto Mall. Purchase any new or pre-owned vehicle during August and September for your chance to win $20,000 cash. Or bring your vehicle in for qualifying service and you could win $5,000 cash. Then join us Saturday, October 3rd for our grand prize celebration featuring a barbecue food truck, live DJ, family fun, and the cash drawings beginning at 1 p.m. 808 North Pearl Street, Bridgeton, or visit BridgetonAutomall.com. No purchase necessary. See dealer for complete rules and details.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got him. It's a sack.
Sixers.
Oh, baby.
And Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
Finally!
This is Hanging with Hennig.
I have friends everywhere.
On 97.3 ESPN Radio, South Jersey.
In New Jersey. Am I right? Yeah.
Live feed on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
It seems to run on some form of electricity. Well, you're not wrong.
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together.
Now, here's your host.
He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Josh Hennig.
Hour 3 of Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. I love this time of year. Just so much football talk. I could do this for 6 hours, but I won't. I got other things to do. People sometimes forget that I have a job that 90% of what I do, no one ever sees or hears. The on-air part, whether it's here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN or working with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash during the week, that's a small percentage of my work is what is actually you hear on the radio or you see on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig. So, but I appreciate everybody tuning in today. Coming up this hour, we'll get to more of your texts on the Eagles at 609-403-0973. Also, don't worry, for those of you out there, I do have some picks for you for UFC in Philadelphia this weekend. But right now, for those of you who might not have heard it during the week, okay, I had the opportunity to speak with Nick Ferguson. Now, for those who don't know, Nick Ferguson played in the NFL for a decade, primarily with the Broncos and Texans, was the main chunk of his time. If you remember, he played part of his tenure with DeMeco Ryans, who later came to the Eagles as the linebacker, now the head coach of the Houston Texans. Well, Nick Ferguson went on a rant earlier this week on social media and was basically complaining about all of the Jalen Hurts hate. And he thought it was ridiculous. Dan Orlovsky the other day on ESPN's Get Up said it was outrageous. So I wanted to reach out to Nick because I don't know Dan Orlovsky, but I've gotten to know Nick Ferguson a little bit. He's a great guy, and he always gets back to me. So I said, hey, would you be willing to come on and talk about what your rant was? So I reached out to him, and this was my conversation earlier this week with former NFL safety Nick Ferguson about Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles joining you right now on 97.3 ESPN. The conversation around Jalen Hurts, it's getting wild. So we're going to ask somebody who played in the NFL for a decade. Nick Ferguson, the Broncos, the Texans. We've had him on the show before here talking about the Broncos, but he put out a very interesting video talking about the video of Jalen Hurts throwing the interception at practice that has gotten everyone losing their minds. And Nick Ferguson joins us right now here on 97.3 ESPN. Nick, welcome back. We know you're back. That means football season's here. How's it going?
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad to see football is back, and hopefully the Philly fans are as excited as I am. I mean, football is back.
Exactly. And I loved your video you posted last night, so I had to reach out to you because we were just having this conversation yesterday about, you have a guy in Jalen Hurts. This guy has all of the check marks on the resume, but yet one video goes online of him throwing an interception in practice, and the whole world acts like the guy's a bum.
You know what? That's the frustrating part about it, is because not every quarterback is treated as fairly as some others. And for some reason, there's just this overly amount of disdain for Jalen Hurts and his ability. But I try to remind people, okay, well, he's been to the Super Bowl twice. And then the first time he played against the Iron Man and Superman and Patrick Mahomes, he outdueled him. Had the Eagles won that game, Jalen Hurts is the MVP of the Super Bowl. But they come back, they repeat it, he wins. But there's just a lot of this negative vitriol for this guy. And watching the video, I'm trying to explain it to people like, this is practice. This is not a game. This is practice. And I think Allen Iverson famously said it. And it is absolutely true. But this is where you want to make your mistakes, in practice. But on that particular play, from my standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, Quinyon Mitchell made a great play. Like, Hollywood Brown needed to bring that dig route in just a little more because Jalen Hurts was throwing to a spot. He wasn't throwing to a man. And maybe that has a lot to do with their lack of chemistry at this point. But I think Jalen Hurts, man, he's been unfairly judged. And we're talking about by fans, some Philly fans, some out-of-market fans. But here's where it's so much disheartening for me. Seeing former players who played the game just as well as I played it, they're criticizing him as too. And they're saying, well, the Eagles social media team did a poor job because they highlighted something negative about the quarterback. No, they're not. There's two sides of the ball. They just highlighted the fact that the defense actually made a play. And I'm like, why can you not do that? Right? And once again, and I posted it in my video at Nick Ferguson _25. I talked about Josh Allen. He started off their practice with 4 INTs. No, there was no video, but it happened. But no one is saying anything negative about Josh Allen, but the criticism is overwhelming when it comes to Jalen Hurts, and I just don't get it.
So from your experience, you look around the NFL, right? Hurts has done things that Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, you throw in whatever quarterback you want to. These guys haven't done it. So what do you think it is about Jalen that gets people so off their rocker? Because, Nick, you've probably seen the same things I have on different shows, different platforms, where these people, it's like Jalen Hurts could cure the world of cancer, and they still complain about it.
Yeah, they are, because I'll boil it down to something really simple as it's just hate. Even Cam Newton, who's been to the Super Bowl himself, he has criticized Jalen Hurts as well. And I think it's a little hatred that Jalen Hurts' numbers may be a little better than his as far as rushing touchdowns, as far as getting to Super Bowls, actually winning a Super Bowl. So there's a lot of negativity dispute in the direction of Jalen Hurts because everyone wanted him to fail. Because when you go from Alabama, you're replaced by Tua Tagovailoa, and then you have to go to Oklahoma and then really prove yourself. Everyone was thinking, okay, well, he's not a top quarterback. All he has done since he's been in the league is lead that team. And I'll say this, I don't subscribe to this idea that the teams win Super Bowls solely based on their quarterback. No, this is a team sport. It's not freaking golf. Everyone is required to do their part. the addition of Saquon Barkley absolutely helps him, just like any quarterback. If you have a great run game, like Josh Allen has James Cook, right? No one's complaining about that, but they go hand in hand. And oh, by the way, the defense as well. But there's a lot of haters of Jalen Hurts that started when he was in college. Now they're on the transition to him being in the pros, but he's a hell of a quarterback in my book.
Talking with Nick Ferguson, 10-year NFL safety with the Broncos and the Texans, among others, joining us here on 97.3 ESPN, as he mentioned, at Nick Ferguson _25 on the X platform. Nick, when you talk about what Jalen Hurts has done, I'm glad you mentioned the college part, because, you know, one of the things that we've had a conversation this offseason about, I want to get your perspective as a player, right? You know, I never played in the NFL, okay? So, you know, I don't know. But in my perspective, I thought one of the biggest highlights of the offseason was when Jalen Hurts was at Oklahoma, he was a runner-up for the Heisman. Lincoln Riley, who was his coach there, spent the month of May with Hurts, with Sean Mannion, helping with the transition of the installation of this new offense. As a player, is that a big deal to have that level of collaboration in the offseason?
It is so vital and so important. And keep this in mind, when we look at Jalen Hurts and his time with the Eagles, he's had 6 offensive coordinators. Sean Mannion is taking over for Patullo, who I thought didn't do a great job. He didn't really say the offensive or Jalen Hurts, but that's besides the point. But it is so important that the offensive coordinator and the quarterback are on the same page. But there's a guy that never really gets talked about that is just as important as the OC. That's the quarterback coach, because that guy works lockstep with that quarterback every single day. That quarterback coach is in the room with the quarterback. So it pays to be on the same page, but also, too, as an OC to say, hey, listen, I don't care about the fact of how many places I've run this particular system. It's about the quarterback. What does the quarterback need from me to help him out? Even if that means that you have to change some of the play calls. And we've seen, play calls, because Sean Payton when he gives a call, it is long as hell. So the idea is that if you have to reduce the play call to allow your quarterback to be able to get it out and disseminate it to everyone else in the huddle so they can execute it, to me, that's what you want to do. So it's all about doing what you need to do. If you're saying, well, we're sold on this particular guy, and it seems like the Eagles are sold on Jalen Hurts, you do everything within your power to make sure that you highlight him. And I know most people are saying, well, his numbers are not going to be that great because A.J. Brown is no longer in the building. I like to think that Jalen Hurts is going to take this as a challenge, because he's heard so many people talk about him since his college days, what he cannot do, that he's willing to prove what he can do.
And I think one of the things, I'm glad you put it that way, what he can do, because this is a guy who did win the Super Bowl MVP. He was the runner-up for the NFL MVP a couple of years ago. And and I know Jalen Hurts, he's a very monotone guy. He vocally doesn't get excited, but he has said this offseason, Nick, he is excited about this offense. He is in Sean Mannion's hip pocket trying to get better. It sounds like to me that we got a motivated guy. And, I had this conversation with Hollis Thomas a couple of weeks ago, the former Eagle, Nick. Hollis talked about the fact that when a man looks as focused as Jalen is, you can't underestimate him.
No, you can't. And once again, that's the great thing about playing this sport. There are going to be people who are going to be on your side, and there are going to be a large amount of people who are going to be totally against you. At the end of the day, you have to think about what you're capable of doing and how you have gotten to the point where you are being a professional athlete, and allow those negative words, those negative sayings, the clippings, people talking about you on the radio or television, allow that to be somewhat of a motivator to kind of get you going. And I know the idea is that you shouldn't listen to the naysayers, and no one should be able to get you going. But I tell you what, the greatest part of success is making people choke on their words. And Jalen Hurts has done a phenomenal job of doing just that. And it just troubles me to see how many people are so against him. And they don't look at other quarterbacks the same way they judge him, because once again, you get a viral video about practice. We're not talking about a game, we're talking about practice. And that's where you want to make your mistakes. So when you get in the game, the chemistry is better between you and your skill players.
Couple more for Nick Ferguson, of course, 10-year NFL safety, now covering the Broncos for Broncos Radio, joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. during the time Vic Fangio was in Denver, it didn't work out for him as a head coach. But Nick, he has been absolutely phenomenal as a DC here in Philadelphia. And there's a lot of people who are talking about how good this Eagles defense can be. We know that Fangio has said that, Hurts looked great in practice, but the defense is trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. What is your perspective of Philadelphia heading into this season? Last year was a disappointment. Can they do it again, make a deep playoff run this year?
Yeah, I think they can, because once again, you have, Saquon Barkley, running the ball. You have Jalen Hurts. You have Devontae Smith. And then you talk about Vic Fangio and the defense. And one thing that happens in this league a lot, quarterbacks are propped up on this pedestal. And everyone talks about the quarterback, but all the supporting cast, the ensemble, they don't get a lot of credit, because you have to be able to run the ball. You have to be able to stop the run. You have to be able to create turnovers, and you have to be able to flip those turnovers into points. That makes you a dangerous team. And Philly, known as though they got a taste of what that feels like, not once, but twice. So I would like to think that they definitely want to get back to it. Yeah, you have some departures on the defensive side of the ball, but you have Davis, you have Carter. I mean, you got two guys up front that can really be problematic and be disruptive for opposing offenses. So those guys can get back to where they were a couple of years ago when that defense was just, dominating, killing so many people. Now that means extra possessions for your offense. So yes, I truly believe, and once again, I'm saying this, and I'm not a Philly fan. I didn't play for the Eagles, but I'm saying this being a person who watches football and loves football, that the Eagles team, they have the capabilities of surprising a lot of people. And yes, last year, you said it. Last year wasn't a great year for them statistically, not how they wanted. So now they have a new offensive coordinator. Jalen Hurts is going to be really inspired, because when you look at some of the rankings, and even though the ESPN rankings, when you talk about executives, ranking the quarterbacks, he wasn't that high. I think they had him at 5. He's so much better than that, because a lot of those guys on that list, Josh Allen being number 1, when was the last time Josh Allen was in the Super Bowl? I'll wait for it. He hasn't. He hasn't been in the Super Bowl. So Jalen Hurts has what it takes to put Philadelphia Eagles where they need to be. And I truly believe that he can do that.
Nick, before I let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Broncos, because I think the biggest question coming into this year in a stacked AFC West is Bo Nix. I would argue that if Bo Nix was healthy in that championship game, the Broncos would have been in the Super Bowl instead of the Patriots. So what are realistic expectations for the return of Bo Nix for Denver this year?
The idea is that running back, and I know that's not a word that Sean Payton wants to use around here, but that's exactly what you did. You made a couple of tweaks to the roster here, adding some young upstarts, and you bring back J.K. Dobbins. But yeah, that's the theory around here, that if Bo Nix didn't hurt his ankle against Buffalo, yeah, it's Sam Darnold and Bo Nix in the Super Bowl. And that's the mindset that you definitely have to have. And I'll tell you this, the defense for the past 2 seasons has led the NFL in sacks, and they're thirsty for more. Like last year, they had 63. They're hoping to break the single-season sack record. So if they do that, once again, defense giving way to the offense, more possessions for Bo Nix, and the Broncos could be in the Super Bowl.
Wouldn't it be cool if it was a Broncos-Eagles Super Bowl?
Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
I mean, there might not be no points scored in that game, though. That's the only problem.
Right. Oh, yes. Football gods, if you're listening, can we make that happen? Can we make that happen?
Remember when the Patriots and Rams played years ago, and there was just like no points for like the first 3 quarters?
Wasn't that game was like, what, 13-3 or something like that?
So like 13-3, 14-3. Edelman only won MVP because he had the only score of the game.
Yes. See, look, really quickly, unlike most people who love to see a lot of points, right? They want to see the offense run up points. No, a great game for me is a score that's like a baseball score, like 9-3.
Yeah.
I love those types of games.
Spoken like a true former defensive player in the NFL, Nick Ferguson. That was my conversation with him this week when I was filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. And there was a lot of huge takeaways from that conversation for me, but I think the biggest takeaway was he took the Jalen Hurts thing and said, go back to college. Go back to the people who looked at him at Alabama and made an opinion of him of that's all he is. That's all he's going to be. And I think that is kind of to the point that we were talking about the last hour with my answer to Thea and Mays Lane question at 609-403-0973. The fact that the people who don't like Jalen Hurts, they like other quarterbacks who have worse resumes, but they fit the narrative. You know, Deshaun Watson apparently went 8 for 9 today for the Browns in his first preseason action. And I always tell people, I was just talking with a buddy of mine off the air, and I said, no one ever doubted that Deshaun Watson has talent. You're not in the NFL if you don't have talent. The problem with Deshaun Watson is, one, he has had a plethora of injuries that have relegated his ability to maximize his physical talent. And number two, while he was never criminally convicted, when almost 30 women accuse you of the same despicable acts, that's a crowd. And if the crowd is saying that you did something wrong, there's probably something nefarious in your conduct. And, you know, the investigator from the NFL, they found that a lot of the accusations about him were credible. They were substantiated. And just because he was never convicted in a court of law doesn't mean that he is not a bad dude. And I think that that serial nefarious activity off the field diluted his ability to be the best version of himself in the professional environment. Because whether we want to admit it or not, what you do when no one is watching does impact when everyone is watching. I know in my business, I can tell very clearly when a broadcaster did their homework versus didn't do their homework before a game. And I'm sure many of you out there can do the same thing. Whatever your job description is, you can sit there and look at, for example, an NFL player and tell, man, that guy doesn't look like he's on the same page with the quarterback. Or, wow, that guy doesn't seem to know what he's doing. Or, why is that? Like, look at Trey Turner. One of the reasons why we all criticize Trey Turner is because for a guy who's being paid $300 million, you would think there'd be a higher level of professional pride in doing a job at an efficient high level. So when he doesn't do it at a high level, that's where the criticism comes from. You don't need to be an expert or a rocket scientist to know that. So Deshaun Watson, to me, no one ever doubted his physical ability, but it's you have an issue off the field. And that issue created a dynamic where it ruined you ever being able to be the best version of yourself because you have not come to face it, handle it, and move on from it. That's also the reason why Brendan Sorsby, the former Texas Tech quarterback, is now being forced with no football this year because instead of saying, I have a problem, this gambling addiction, and I'm going to address it, I'm going to face it, and I'm going to deal with it, he tried to act like, oh, that's behind me. I'm not going to do that ever again. And that's why everyone was saying, well, you could say you're never going to do it again, but you're not exactly coming off as contrite. You're not exactly coming off as repentant. You're not coming off as, I did a bad thing. But the problem is we live in a world where people like Brendan Sorsby and Deshaun Watson will be given a second or a third chance. But a guy like Jalen Hurts won't be given a first chance because someone saw him at Alabama get benched for one game in favor of Tua Tagovailoa, and then all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts stinks. Let's ignore what he did at Oklahoma. Let's ignore the 2022 season or the 2024 playoff run. Let's ignore all of that because you, 10 years ago, saw Jalen Hurts in one game get benched, And all of a sudden, that's an indictment the rest of his career, the rest of his life. And I get it. People do the same thing with Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter never went to jail. He never committed domestic violence. He never had a breaking and entering charge. He never assaulted anyone. He never swung a gun in front of a camera. I'm naming other athletes without naming them who have done all kinds of crazy stuff or illegal stuff. He never attempted to transport women across state boundaries for sexual favors. He was in a drag race. The person in the other car lost control of their vehicle, crashed, and died. But that one incident created a narrative that Jalen Carter is a bad dude. Now, did he spit on Dak Prescott? Yes. Does that make him a bad dude? It makes him an idiot. It makes him immature, but it doesn't make him a bad person. You know what bad people do? They hit women. You know what bad people do? They commit real, legitimate crimes against humanity. And I don't mean the game. I mean literal bad stuff. But again, Jalen Carter, Jalen Hurts, they just happen to have the same name. Both of them had a moment happen to them when they were younger, and now that moment gets held against them the rest of their lives. It's craziness. But what do I know? I'm just Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City, streaming live on YouTube and X. Just follow at Josh Hennig, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Coming up, we'll check back in on the text board at 609-403-0973. Also, your comments on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig. And don't forget, we are in the studio today, the 97.3 ESPN studios, but we'll be back on the road again Labor Day weekend. Yes, we'll be back at Boulevard Superliquors for another extravaganza for the holiday weekend. Details still to come about the giveaways and what we will be doing that day, but I'm just letting you guys know, myself and Mike Carlin will be back at Boulevard Superliquors, and we invite you to join us coming up Labor Day weekend. That's Saturday. Hang with Hennig, broadcasting live from the best selection of beer, wine, and spirits at the Jersey Shore. That is Boulevard Super Liquors in Marmora at the foot of the Ocean City 34th Street Bridge. More football talk coming up here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio. It's a critical showdown in the AL West.
Gone! A line drive home run to left center for Alvarez.
While the Houston Astros are fighting for the top of the division, the Seattle Mariners are lurking a few games back, and they go head-to-head this weekend.
Julio Rodriguez, a two-run blast.
The Mariners at the Astros on Sunday Night Baseball.
Your radio home of Sunday Night Baseball. 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 6:30.
Whether you are stocking up for a summer party, a day at the beach, or that golden hour dinner at your favorite BYOB restaurant, your one-stop shopping destination, where I go for every occasion, is Boulevard Super Liquors. At the foot of the Ocean City 34th Street Bridge, Boulevard Super Liquors has the best selection of craft beer, whiskey, vodka, wines, and tequila in all of South Jersey. Plus, they are minutes from Garden State Parkway, exit 25, so you can easily stop into Boulevard Super Liquors on your travels all around South Jersey. Family owned and operated for 4 generations, Boulevard Super Liquors also has the largest temperature-controlled wine room in New Jersey, offering you the best selection of wines for your next dinner date or social outing. These are just some of the reasons why Boulevard Super Liquors is my go-to. On Roosevelt Boulevard, at the foot of the Ocean City 34th Street Bridge, the best selection of beer and spirits in South Jersey.
Making your home look brand new is what Work of Art Construction can do for you. Ready to remodel your bathroom or have a kitchen makeover? Art Masker has 40 years of experience in construction and knows how to make your home look like a work of art. Want to install a new back deck or invest in a new front door? Just call Art Masker at 609-788-4221 to learn more. Visit Work of Art Construction on Instagram to see how Work of Art Construction can make your home look brand new. Beautify your home with Work of Art. Call him at 609-788-4271 and let them make your home truly a work of art.
Brand new Kias, $179 a month. $179 at RK. RK Kia of Vineland, New Jersey. Now through Monday, get new 26 Kia K4 LXS, just $179 a month. That's right, $179 for brand new Kia K4s. Even new Sportage LX, just $267 a month. $267 plus 0% financing, 0 for 72 months. At RK Kia of Vineland, save thousands with Labor Day pricing on the entire Kia lineup. Even the all-new 2027 Telluride, plus acres of Kia certified pre-owned, and you get RK coverage, no charge. Ding repair, tire repair, wheel repair, windshield repair, and more. New Kia K4s, $179 a month. New Sportage, $267 a month. Hurry, now through Monday at RK Kia of Vineland. RK does it right. MyRKKia.com. MyRKKia.com. To qualified buyers, plus tax and tag. For details, call 856-641-1111 or MyRKKia.com.
The best time to recommit to your gut health goals? Right now. Take charge of your gut with Nature Made. Our clinically studied ingredients support digestive health. Digestive enzymes break down nutrients. Probiotic and prebiotic fiber nourish good gut bacteria. And super greens with probiotics empower daily digestive health. Try the full lineup of gut health support from Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
A small business affirmation from Progressive. Bakery owners, you will be loved today. Every pastry will be flaky. Your cake will make a child's day. Your delivery van won't get sideswiped by a distracted garbage truck driver. But if so, breathe easy, knowing you'll get back to business quickly with Progressive protecting your commercial auto. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Personal injury attorneys are more than just lawyers. They are your personal advocates and your best chance at justice. Paul D'Amato of D'Amato Law Firm in Egg Harbor Township has devoted his entire career to fighting insurance companies that do not try to work out a fair settlement. Insurance companies aim to wear down accident victims and wear down their lawyers, but Paul has never let that happen and never will. If you're in a situation where you've been hurt in an accident or at work, go to D'AmatoLawFirm.com to schedule a consultation. That's D'AmatoLawFirm.com.
Straight Talk Wireless presents Pickup Truck Wisdom.
Trust is earned. That's why I've stuck with Straight Talk. Same price since 2009 on Verizon's 5G network. Cause shoot, anyone can make a promise. Keeping it for years, that means something.
Now plans starting at $25 a month with 4 lines. Find us at StraightTalk.com and Walmart. Straight Talk Wireless. Straightforward. Always. Same price claim applies only to the base monthly price of our $45 plan from October 2009 to present.
Hey, it's Mike Gill. You know what makes a winning team? Consistency. And that's something my friend Rocco and his team have delivered year after year at Key Acura of Atlantic City. Right, Rocco?
That's right, Mike. We build our business around taking care of our customers and earn their business again and again. We're a small but friendly dealer. We want every customer to feel like they're part of the Key Acura family.
Sounds like a winning game plan to me. Visit Rocco and the team at Key Acura on Tilton Road in EHT. Online at KeyAcuraofAtlanticCity.com.
Now back to Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM.
I don't want them to gain another yard.
And on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
You blitz all night.
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
Josh Hennig back here and Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Before we get back to the text board at 609-403-0973. I see Mike and Galloway and Shaner from EHT chiming in. I do want to say, so I'm scrolling through X, right, just to kind of see any news updates. The video of Jackson Dart getting absolutely blasted in the preseason game because Tyrone Tracy apparently is really bad at like knowing how to block is absolutely wild. Listen, I am not a Giants fan. I've never been a Giants fan. But there is a part of me that wants the Giants to be competitive because I think it makes the rivalry with the Eagles more fun. But can we, for the sake of anything holy is sacred, Can we get Jackson Dart some blocking? I mean, Tyrone Tracy, let me pull up this video because this video to me is just absolutely wild. Okay. For those who are watching on YouTube and X, you got to see this. I can't play the audio for copyright reasons, obviously, but I got to play this because when I first saw this, I didn't think it was real. Like how bad this is. Okay. So let me do my little magic here on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig. There we go. So I'm going to play this video. All right. Watch how poorly Tyrone Tracy.
They bring
pressure. Get a hand on the guy. The Vikings. Now look, if you start at the beginning of the video, okay, I'm going to start from the very beginning. Okay. Dart is looking to his left. You know why he's looking to his left? Because he set Tyrone Tracy to his right to block the free rusher. The quarterback did his job. This is why I always tell you guys, if the line doesn't block and the receivers don't catch, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Okay? This is a simple protection. Okay? Little football breakdown for you. I'm getting juiced up. I love football, right? This is a 5-man stunt pass rush that's made to look like the rush is coming from one place and not another. The free rusher coming from the opposite direction that Dart is looking is supposed to be accounted for by the running back, Tyrone Tracy. As soon as the ball is snapped, Dart is still looking to his left because he's got one receiver who's going to get open probably in 1 or 2 Mississippi and another one that's trying to break free. Now, Tyrone Tracy is already out of position on this play. And this is so bad. It's pathetic. Now, the protection, if the guys do their job, is supposed to work because the stunt had somebody drop in the coverage. But it's Tracy's job to come over the top and get the block. And he literally just does ole. I mean, this is like the matador and the bull going on here. I mean, he didn't even touch the guy. He is so out of position. Every other pass rusher is accounted for, except for the one that was Tyrone Tracy's job. And Dart still has no idea that this guy is coming. I mean, Dart is still looking at the guys who are getting open on the play. And the moment he looks to his right, there's the guy blasting him. I mean, I feel for the guy. I mean, the guy did his job. The quarterback's. Now, look, could you argue maybe Dart should be a little less focused on one side of the field and should be scanning the rest of the field? Pressure. And you know what? Tracy did such a bad job at attempting the block. Blasted. He's not even in the picture anymore. So Dart's laying on the ground after getting wrecked. And the Vikings are celebrating. It's just so bad. It's so bad. Like, on one hand, it's like so bad it's impressive. But on the other hand, it's so bad. It's like, what are we doing? What? How are you in the NFL and you're that bad at your job? Tyrone Tracy? What abomination. All right, let's get to the text board. 609-403-0973. Shaner, captaining on the Bay, says, Josh, we are loving the Hurts rant. Hurts did what no other one else could and bring us to 2 Super Bowls and win 1 in the historic franchise of the Eagles. It's one of the top games of all time for an Eagles quarterback. The 2017 was the best game ever, but Hurts is the man for getting us to 2 Super Bowls. That's from Shaner. Shaner, I love the way you put it that way because before Jalen Hurts came along, it was one-offs. Jaworski, one-off. McNabb, one-off. Foles got there, won it, didn't get back there again. And before Hurts came along, the argument was always, well, McNabb's probably the greatest quarterback in Eagles history because he's got the stats. But now Hurts has got the postseason resume. So you got to wonder, how does that change the dynamic? Jalen Hurts right now, and I haven't looked at this in a while. But let me see here. Let me go pull up Eagles franchise history. Because I know Donovan pretty much has almost every record there is when it comes to Eagles as a quarterback. Passing yards, touchdowns, wins, etc. But I haven't looked at this in a while. How far behind is Jalen? That's the question I have. Let's see here. So Jalen right now is 4th in passing yards. So if you go off of Jalen's average, his averages, not what he potentially could do, but just his averages, it would probably take him, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. So he needs to play another 7 years, just averaging what he does, passing to pass McNabb. Okay. So you can do that in 6 to 7 years. The passing touchdowns, let me see here. What is his average? Yeah, so that'd be another 5 years, 4 to 5 years to get the passing touchdowns. And his completion percentage is already better than Donovan's. So he's already got that going for him. The wins is going to be more interesting, I think, than the passing yards and touchdowns. Because the passing yards, touchdowns, as long as he averages what he's doing, he's going to pass McNabb in about 5 to 6 years. The wins is where I'm curious, because McNabb is 92. Jalen's got to average 10 wins a year over the next 5 years. I mean, I think the Eagles can do it, but that's more of a team stat than an individual stat. Where's Jalen on? McNabb's got 100 interceptions. Jaworski's got 151. I mean, Hurts got 45. He's got to throw. He's got to throw another 60 interceptions. I don't think Hurts ever going to get to 100 interceptions, is he? He's so risk averse. But it's an interesting question. As Hurts continues to play, does he become the greatest quarterback in Eagles history? Let me know. 609-403-0973. Mike in Galloway says, Josh, you're on point about the crime for professional sports and how some of these athletes are viewed. Enjoy listening to your show. Well, thank you, Mike in Galloway. Yeah, I always was perplexed about, your Tyreek Hills of the world and some of these other guys. It's just like, the dude's a bad guy off the field. Like, why do we keep, like, you're telling me that he's the only guy who could run fast to catch a ball? Like, I always was curious about that when it came to NFL teams. Like, how does that rationale go? Because the Eagles have gone out of their way to not draft, not sign guys who are malcontents. And this was the first offseason in a decade that the Eagles had a player get in legal trouble. And it was Nolan Smith getting pulled over for a speeding ticket. And basically day one of camp, Nolan Smith addressed it. He owned up to it. He apologized for it profusely, and he's taking accountability for it. The Eagles don't have a history of guys, being bad people off the field. More text coming in. The White Horse RV text board at 609-403-0973. Nick in Galloway says, if Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, or any number of quarterbacks won a Super Bowl, ESPN and every talking head would be praising them nonstop. Hurts is the only quarterback to win a Super Bowl MVP, and the most common topic from that offseason was, is Hurts really a good quarterback? They couldn't even give him the offseason praise that he deserves. There's top-level trash hurled at him constantly, says Nick in Galloway. Again, I think that, what you're doing, though, is it's a predisposed opinion, Nick, because every quarterback you just named has the stats that say that they are a top 10 quarterback in the league. And because Allen and Lamar Jackson have won NFL MVPs, they get in the top 5. Joe Burrow has done something that Allen, Jackson, Herbert, and Prescott have never done, which is at least get to a Super Bowl. Now, Burrow's biggest problem is he can't stay healthy, and his teams have had some of the worst defenses in the NFL year in and year out. And they're hoping that their overhaul of the defense offseason finally recalibrates that. So I do think that, to me, it's not that I don't want to say the other quarterbacks aren't any good, because I do think Dak Prescott is a very good quarterback. If he didn't play for the Dallas Cowboys, he actually might have a chance to win a championship. Josh Allen has played on teams with some mediocre receivers year in and year out. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. I mean, Lamar Jackson at one point had the most drops by receivers in the NFL for a stretch of time. And of course, that record was, passed by Justin Herbert recently. So, I can't hate on these guys because it's not all on them. But Nick, you're 100% right. If you gave Jalen Hurts' resume to any of those 5 other quarterbacks or 6 other quarterbacks, was it 5 you named? Wait, 1, 2, 5 you named. But we'll throw in more. I'll throw Brock Purdy in there. Just for the fun of it. We can throw Jordan Love in there. We can throw Kyler Murray in there. But the other difference is, outside of Prescott, all of those quarterbacks were first-round draft picks that we're naming. Prescott's really the only one of like the upper echelon of quarterbacks who was not a first-round pick. And the only reason why he has elevated is because it's just been so obvious that Dak is better than people thought he was coming out of college. So, but Nick, you're 100% right. It is crazy and it is absolute garbage that they can't just give the guy his flowers. It is absolutely wild. Let's squeeze in one more text at 609-403-0970 before we hit the break. By the way, Angie Tuckerton on the YouTube video. She's got the Dallas sucks chant going on the YouTube. Good job, Angie. Yeah, that's how you know you're a real Eagles fan. If you're on the YouTube chat doing the Dallas sucks chant, that's how you know if you're a real Eagles fan. Anonymous texter didn't leave it a name at 609-403-0970 says, the problem with what you're saying about Jalen Carter is the fact that if anyone else was involved in that incident, they would have gone to jail. And that's what some people take an issue with. But because his name was Jalen Carter and a high sought-after NFL prospect, nothing happened. It is what it is. Anonymous texter, I have to disagree for this reason. Number one, you can't compare what might happen in like a state like New Jersey that has much stricter and much more stringent driving laws than a state like Georgia. States like Georgia, Alabama, Florida, a lot of those southern states, drag racing is commonplace. It's so commonplace that the state troopers in states like Georgia and Florida, they don't drive the police cars you see around here. They're driving Ford Mustangs and they got NOS equipped in them. Those vehicles who are state troopers in those states, they are equipped to handle any wannabe Fast and Furious driver. Because state laws are more about preventing people from driving fast than they are about just overtly dealing with drag racing. Jalen Carter was not directly responsible for what happened in the other vehicle. And so the morality debate that came in with Jalen Carter was, how do you deal with somebody who was at the scene of the crime, knew the people who were victims of a crime, but did not perpetrate the crime? So that's why I say it's unfair for you to say if anyone else was involved, it would have gone to jail, because Jalen Carter, if you go by the literal interpretation of the law, did not do something that deserved jail time. Again, he didn't hit their car. He didn't tell them to get in the car. He didn't cause them to swerve and crash and die. He was not directly responsible for what happened. So if you have a half-competent lawyer, that lawyer would be able to make sure you don't get jail time. Now, could you maybe have your license suspended? Sure. People get their license suspended just for accumulating points and number of violations. But I think it's very unfair, anonymous texter, to say anyone else would have gone to jail. It's a very presumptuous statement because it seems like you don't know the whole story. And you mentioned the fact that if they went to Jalen Carter, it was a thought for NFL prospect. Well, if it wasn't for the Eagles trading up for him, he was not going to be a top 10 draft pick. He was supposed to be the number 1 pick in the draft. They were an NFL team that took him off their board because of the incident that happened at Georgia. But the Eagles did their due diligence and said, look, it was an accident. It's not a reflection on his character. I think that's why I phrased it the way I did, anonymous texter, because of the fact that, again, I don't think Carter's a bad dude. He's not Tyreek Hill. He is not Rashee Rice. He is not Aqib Talib. He is not one of these athletes like Pac-Man Jones, okay? There's a lot of athletes who have done things off the field that get my ire way more up than Jalen Carter. But if you want to put Carter in that same category, Mr. Anonymous, it's up to you. All right, coming up on the other side, we will wrap up the show with some UFC picks and some thoughts on the sports weekend. Hanging with Hennig, 97.3 ESPN.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens tonight. Pre-game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
The catch is made by Henry, and he is just bounced down by Cooper DeJean.
What a great tackle by Cooper DeJean.
This is South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN.
The Stone Harbor Bar and Grill on 96th Street is Stone Harbor's most complete entertainment experience. Great food, fun, and libations, and newly remodeled for 2026. The same great owners and all your favorite menu items remain, and now we've taken things up a notch with a brand new bar, new sound system, 36 brand new 4K TVs, and more. No matter where you sit, you always have a perfect sight line to the big game, and you've got to try our mouth-watering new menu items. Start your meal with blackened scallops, homemade fried pickles, or a cheeseburger flatbread. Try our new Chicago-style dog, or the Mary Ann sandwich, a chicken cutlet, broccoli rabe, and sharp provolone on world-famous Rando's Bakery Atlantic City bread. The Stone Harbor Bar and Grill sources only the top ingredients and serves up the best quality food. Voted best wings of Stone Harbor and the Jersey Shore by Lord of the Wings. Prime rib nights Friday and Saturdays, rib nights on Sundays, and Mike the Magician Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The newly remodeled Stone Harbor Bar and Grill on 96th Street in the heart of Stone Harbor. Open 11:30 a.m. till midnight, 7 days a week. Go to stoneharborbarandgrill.com or call 609-961-3534 for more.
Tired of Cardillar ads with empty promises? Skip the online form to get a real, no-nonsense deal today during Gentilini Ford's summer sales event. Built Ford tough since 1955, we've treated our community like family for over 70 years. It's why we are a 30-time Ford President's Award winner, top 10 in the nation. Ready, set, Ford. Call 609-861-0100 or visit our showroom today at 555 John S. Penn Boulevard next to the airport in Woodbine, New Jersey. We're just a short drive from anywhere.
Gentilini Family Motors.
What if you could have the most reliable fiber-powered Wi-Fi? And get this, what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years guaranteed? Now through August 24th, new Xfinity customers can get our best price on gig Wi-Fi this summer before it disappears. Just $50 a month for 5 years. No annual contracts, no hidden fees, and our best equipment included. Plus, get online in minutes with same-day Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them. Like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a sixth sense. Plus, it keeps you protected from online threats. And get Peacock Premium included for 2 years. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities. Get it now at Xfinity.com. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds vary. Use of fiber coaxial cable. Learn more at Xfinity.com/same-day Wi-Fi.
Hey, Mom, now that I have an after-school job, I think I want to buy a drum kit.
Okay, rock star. Let's look at your account.
When kids start making money, Chase has easy-to-use tools and expert bankers to help them learn how to manage it.
And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh, and maybe some noise-canceling headphones for you.
Aw, you've thought of everything.
Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Account subject to approval. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
School is back in session, and this is Car Buying 101 at Matt Blatt Kia. Which of the following is the best deal? Is it A, 26 K4 LXS, $129 per month, B, 26 Kia Sportage, $139 per month, or C, 26 Kia Telluride, $259 per month? The correct answer is all of the above. You always get the best deal at Matt Blatt Kia, plus up to $3,000 over KBB fair market value for any trade in any condition. Need some extra credit? Don't sweat it. If you bring home at least $450 per week, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you approved today. Don't be tardy. Come see us today. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and mattblattkia.com.
Need a new car and have no idea? It's got to be a Matt Blatt Kia.
24-month leases, $59.99 with signing, 10,000 miles per year. Call 888-506-4132 for details. Subject to lender approval through KFA. Offers don't combine. Expires month end.
You're hanging with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM.
People will come, Ray.
And on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
People will most definitely come.
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
Josh Hennig back here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. All right, some final thoughts for the sports weekend. Again, I'm going to say my top three players I'm watching tonight for the Eagles-Ravens game. Markel Bell, we talked about him earlier, the rookie tackle. A lot of people are hyping him up. What is he doing in the bright lights? What does he do when he doesn't know what's coming at him from the pass rush? Number two, does Tanner McKee perform tonight? Can he reestablish himself as, basically a guy that should be the backup quarterback? And number three, I want to see this Jacorian Bennett versus Mac McWilliams. I don't care what people may have heard in the past. The reality is that these are two guys that have a lot to prove with this roster moving forward. And I think that it's a very complicated situation when it comes to guys like that. You got to find out, is Bennett the guy you thought he was? Is William the guy you thought he was? Probably both not. The odds are against it. A couple more things before we get out of here. So UFC is in Philadelphia this weekend. Shout out to anybody getting to go. I will not be there, but a couple things. Mackenzie Dern is defending her UFC belt against Jillian Robertson. I like the plus 150 to win by decision for Mackenzie. I think Mackenzie is just kind of in the prime of her career at this point, and unless it's another comparable elite fighter at this point, I think she's going to win 9 times out of 10. I do like Edson Barboza to win in the upset. Plus 525 is the betting line for that. But he's a guy who seems to show up, whether he fights in Atlantic City or Philadelphia. So he's a guy you want to lean into. And then finally, Vicente Luque is a guy that a veteran fighter. And anytime there's a veteran fighter against a less experienced guy, I tend to lean to that guy. So Luque to win by decision, it's a wild number. It's plus 400. Before we get out of here, I want to squeeze in this text. This came in right in under the ropes. Rob in Ocean City says, Josh, what are your thoughts on Ray Lewis? Ray Lewis is a conversation that deserves a longer talk, but I will say this. The problem with Ray Lewis is that if you get your information from one person, he should be in jail. If you get your information from somebody else, he was rightfully not in jail. Either way, the league should have suspended him because he was at worst hanging out with bad character people. At minimum, that's what he was doing. But it's a deep conversation for another time. Thanks to Andy McNamara, Caden Steele, Nick Ferguson for joining the show. Thanks all of you for listening on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll catch up with you on Monday.
Sunday morning in the locker room with Philly Swine producer Alex Berardis and Aaron Ewing joined me in the studio.